So hey, what's up guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. So in this video we are going to see what if Harry Potter was half werewolf. So this will be movie, and don't worry, I will be not hosting the whole video. And if you want more movies like this or more videos on this topic, then you can suggest me some more ideas in comment section. Also, if you are new on this channel, then please leave a like, share and subscribe. That will be super duper awesome. Now, without wasting any more time, let's get in the video.
Harry Potter learned early that danger had a sound. Sometimes it was obvious, boots pounding down a corridor, a scream ripping through night air, the crack of a curse hitting stone. But other times it was quieter, a shift in a room, a breath held, a silence that pressed against the skin like a warning. That morning, before the great hall even filled, Harry woke up because he could smell it. Smoke. Not the cozy, harmless kind from the torches lining the walls. This was sharper, like scorched wood and hot metal, like something had burned and left its anger behind. His eyes snapped open. The dormitory was dim and blue with early light, the curtains around the beds still drawn. Ron was snoring on the far side of the room like a chainsaw with feelings. Seamus muttered in his sleep. Dean turned over and sighed. No smoke, no fire. No nothing. Yet Harry's throat tightened as if he'd inhaled it anyway. He lay still, heart thudding. He listened. There, beyond the soft breathing of his dorm mates, he could hear the castle. Not ghosts, not footsteps. He could hear everything. The faint creak of an old beam settling 3 floors down. The whisper of wind pressing against a window. Somewhere far away, water running through pipes like a vein beneath skin. It should have been impossible, and yet his body reacted like it was the most natural thing in the world. Harry swallowed. His mouth tasted faintly of copper. He sat up slowly, careful not to wake anyone, and rubbed his face. His fingers paused. His nails looked normal, maybe, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were too present, as if his hands were suddenly more his than they'd ever been. He flexed his fingers. A faint ache ran through his arms, not painful, just charged, like he'd been holding tension for hours. He swung his legs over the side of the bed and stood. The floor was cold. It should have made him shiver. It didn't. He moved to the window between the beds and pulled the curtain aside a sliver. Outside, Hogwarts sat under a washed-out sky. The ground's quiet, the lake a flat sheet of dark steel. Harry stared at the moon. It was fading, pale in the morning light, still visible, still watching. His stomach clenched with a sudden, sharp discomfort that made no sense at all. Like his body had remembered something his mind hadn't. He let the curtain fall back into place and forced himself to breathe slowly. "You're stressed," he told himself. "You're chosen. You didn't ask for it. Everyone's staring. The tasks are coming." That was enough to make anyone's nerves go strange. Except, Harry's eyes flicked to his scar as if it might be burning. It wasn't, but his skin felt tight, like it didn't fit properly around his bones. He dressed without turning on a lamp. He didn't need it. The dim light was clear. That thought made him pause halfway through pulling on his jumper. Clear. Like his eyes had been cleaned from the inside. Harry stood there for a second, listening to Ron snore in the distant quiet of the castle, and wondered, briefly, irrationally, if he'd always been half blind and only just noticed. By breakfast, it was worse. Not the smell, not the hearing, the people. Harry stepped into the common room and instantly felt it. Hundreds of tiny signals his brain kept catching like hooks. Perfume on someone's scarf, ink and parchment, and something bitter on a student's hands. The faint tang of sweat where someone had hurried up the stairs. His skin prickled with awareness. He tried not to show it. Ron and Hermione were already at the portrait hole. Hermione speaking quickly, hands full of books, even though it wasn't a normal class day. "You look like you didn't sleep," she said immediately. Ron yawned, rubbing his eyes. He never sleeps. Not when he's the Triwizard mascot. Harry flinched at Ron's tone, not because it was cruel, not really, but because it carried a jagged edge Harry hadn't noticed before. Or maybe it hadn't been there before. "I slept," Harry lied. Hermione's eyes narrowed. "No, you didn't." Harry opened his mouth to protest and stopped because he could smell something on Hermione that made his chest ache. It wasn't perfume. It wasn't soap. It was worry. Real worry. Like the scent of rain before a storm. Harry stared at her for a second too long. "What?" Ron asked, suddenly suspicious. "Nothing," Harry said quickly, and stepped past them. The moment the great hall doors opened, noise hit him like a wave. Not loud noise. Normal chatter, clinking plates, owls rustling in the rafters. But it arrived as layers, clean and separate. He could pick out individual laughs. The scrape of someone's chair. A whisper from the Ravenclaw table. "Harry Potter's hands looked weird yesterday, did you see?" And another voice answering, "Shut up, you'll make him hear." Harry's stomach tightened. They were right. He could hear. He walked faster, head down, trying to focus on Ron's voice as Ron complained about the weather and the food and the fact that Hogwarts had decided to become a death circus. Hermione kept glancing at Harry's hands. When Harry reached for the toast, he noticed it too, his grip. He didn't grab the toast. His fingers closed with a kind of certainty, like his hand was built to lock onto things. His knuckles looked wider than usual. Hermione leaned in slightly. "Harry, are you feeling all right?" "I'm fine," Harry said. But his voice sounded wrong to his own ears. A fraction deeper, rougher. He swallowed and took a bite of toast. It tasted like ash and butter and something sweet. He could taste all of it. And when someone at the Hufflepuff table dropped a spoon, the sudden sharp clatter made Harry's shoulders tense so fast it was like being yanked by strings. Ron noticed. "Blimey, mate." Harry forced a laugh. Just jumped. Hermione didn't laugh. Across the hall, Professor Snape was watching. Harry felt it before he saw it, like a cold draft creeping up the back of his neck. He looked up and met Snape's eyes. Snape's mouth curled slightly, not into a smile, but into something that carried satisfaction, like he'd been waiting for something and it had finally decided to arrive. Snape's gaze flicked, briefly, almost lazily, to Harry's hands, then back to Harry's face. And then Snape looked away as if Harry wasn't worth the effort. Harry's jaw tightened, anger sparking too quickly. Too hot. His fingers clenched around his goblet. The glass creaked. Harry froze and loosened his grip immediately. The goblet looked normal, but his pulse was pounding in his ears like war drums. Hermione noticed the goblet. Ron noticed Harry's face. "Harry," Ron said, quieter now, "are you sure you're—" A loud scrape of a chair somewhere behind Harry made him whip his head around. It wasn't a threat, just a Durmstrang student moving too fast. But Harry's body reacted like it was a threat. His muscles tensed, his breathing sharpened. His hands, again, felt too ready. The Durmstrang student stared at him, confused, then sneered and turned away. Harry forced himself to look back at his plate. His toast had gone cold. Later, in the corridor outside, Hermione caught up with him. Ron had gone ahead to grumble to Fred and George about something. Hermione's footsteps were quiet, but Harry still heard them. "Harry," she said. He kept walking. She moved into his path. Harry stopped. Hermione's eyes were bright with that stubborn kind of fear she got when something was wrong and everyone else was pretending it wasn't. This isn't normal stress. Harry's throat tightened. "What do you want me to say? That being forced into a tournament where I might die is making me jumpy?" Hermione's lips pressed together. "You're not just jumpy. You're—" She hesitated. Harry saw her eyes flick to his hands again. "Different," Hermione finished. That word landed like a slap. Harry felt the anger rise again, fast and sharp, and for a terrifying second, he wanted to snarl. Actually wanted to. His tongue pressed against his teeth. He could feel the shape of his canines like he'd never felt them before. Harry looked away, breathing through his nose like he'd seen Lupin do once when Lupin was trying not to lose control of his own emotions. Hermione lowered her voice. Have you been cursed? Did someone put something on you? Harry shook his head. I don't know. That's not an answer. I don't know, Hermione. His voice cracked at the end, not with weakness, but with strain. Hermione's expression softened for half a second. And then, from behind them, a smooth, drawling voice cut through. Potter. Harry turned. Professor Snape stood in the corridor like he'd always been there. His black robes didn't move. His eyes were dark and sharp, and Harry hated the way Snape looked like he could already see the truth Harry couldn't name. How touching, Snape said, eyes flicking to Hermione. A little study group. Hermione's spine straightened. Professor. Snape ignored her and looked at Harry. Follow me. Harry's stomach dropped. Hermione started to speak, but Snape's gaze snapped to her like a knife. Miss Granger, Snape said softly, do not mistake your enthusiasm for permission. Hermione went pale with anger. Harry wanted to say something, wanted to defend her. But the anger inside him moved too fast again, like a match tossed into oil, and he felt that strange, hungry tightening in his chest. Snape's nostrils flared, as if Snape could smell it. Harry turned and followed. Snape led him down corridors that grew colder with every turn, away from the noise of students and into the quiet pulse of the castle's older bones. By the time they reached Snape's office, Harry's skin felt stretched. Snape shut the door with a click and turned. For a moment, Snape didn't speak. He just watched Harry. Harry hated it. What? Harry snapped. Snape's lip curled. Temper. How predictable. Harry's fists clenched. His nails bit into his palms. He didn't remember clenching that hard. Snape's eyes dropped to Harry's hands again. You've noticed the changes, Snape said. Harry's chest tightened. What changes? Snape's mouth twitched as if he was enjoying this far too much. The senses, the appetite, the irritability, the accidents. Harry swallowed. I'm stressed. Stress does not improve hearing, Snape said smoothly. Stress does not sharpen a scent. Stress does not make the body prepare for violence, as if it has been waiting for it. Harry's stomach turned over. So what are you saying? Snape moved to a cabinet and opened it, taking out a vial of thick, dark potion. He held it up to the light. It didn't gleam. It absorbed light like ink. You will drink this, Snape said. Harry stared. What is it? Not a cure, Snape said, and the way he said cure made it sound like an insult. A restraint. Harry's mouth went dry. Restraint for what? Snape's eyes met his, and for once the cruelty in Snape's gaze didn't feel like simple hatred. It felt like recognition. Tell me, Potter, Snape said quietly, do you know what you have inherited? Harry's heartbeat kicked. I didn't inherit anything. Snape's smile was thin and sharp. How fortunate you must feel, then, to be so wrong. Harry took a step back without meaning to. His body wanted distance. Snape placed the vial on the desk. You will drink it tonight, Snape said, before you sleep. Harry stared at it. Why? Snape leaned closer, voice dropping. Because tomorrow, when you stand before Dragon, the world will learn what it already fears. Harry felt cold. A dragon's not going to make me. Snape's gaze flicked to Harry's mouth. Harry stopped. Because he'd almost said make me what? He hadn't finished the sentence. But his body had. Something inside him had surged in response to the word dragon, like it was a challenge. Like it was prey. Like it was fire that needed answering. Snape straightened. Take it. Harry's hand moved. When his fingers closed around the vial, the glass didn't feel cool. It felt warm, like it was alive. Harry's stomach twisted. What did you mean? Harry said, voice tight. Inherit. Snape's eyes narrowed. If you were wiser, you would not ask questions you are not prepared to survive the answers to. Harry's anger sparked again. Stop talking like that. Snape's voice cut like ice. Stop reacting like that." The silence that followed was thick. Then Snape said, "Softer. You are not the first Potter to carry old blood." Harry went still. "What?" Snape's face was unreadable now. "Go." Harry stared at him, heart hammering. Snape nodded toward the door. "Before you embarrass yourself further." Harry left with the vial burning cold in his hand. That evening, Hermione cornered him near the library. Ron was there too, arms crossed, face tense in a way it got when he was trying to be supportive but didn't know how. "Where have you been?" Hermione demanded. Harry hesitated. "Snape." Ron swore under his breath. "What did the greasy bat want?" Harry's hand tightened around the hidden vial in his pocket. He didn't answer immediately. Hermione's eyes narrowed. "What did he give you?" Harry stared at her. He could smell her worry again, sharp as ink. His jaw clenched. "It's nothing." Hermione's voice rose. "Harry, you can't just—" "Drop it," Harry said, too harshly. Ron blinked. Hermione froze. Harry immediately regretted it, but the regret didn't soften the tightness inside him. It just made it itch. Hermione's expression went hurt for half a second, then turned stubborn. "Fine. Then tell me this. Have you noticed your senses?" Harry's breath caught. Ron frowned. "His senses?" Hermione's voice was quick now, like she was building a case. "He's reacting faster. He's startled by noises that don't startle him. He's staring at people like he can hear them thinking." Ron looked at Harry, uneasy. "Is that true?" Harry opened his mouth. He could have lied again, but the thought of lying to them felt like swallowing glass. "Yes," Harry said quietly. "I've noticed." Ron's face went pale. Hermione's voice softened. "Okay, good. That's good. We can work with that." "Work with it," Ron said, voice cracking a little. "Hermione, he's not a homework assignment." Harry flinched at that too. Ron didn't mean it cruelly, but fear had a way of making words sharp. Harry felt something inside him push against his ribs. A low, irritated heat. He forced his shoulders down, forced himself to breathe. Hermione reached into her bag. "I've already started looking. It could be a curse, or a potion, or their old magical conditions." Harry's hand shot out and caught her wrist before she could pull out a book. He didn't mean to grab her hard, but Hermione gasped softly anyway. Harry froze. His fingers were around her wrist like a clamp. Too tight. Too fast. Ron's face changed instantly. Harry released her like he'd been burned. "Sorry, Hermione, I didn't." Hermione rubbed her wrist, eyes wide, but she wasn't angry. She looked frightened. Not of Harry, of what was happening to him. "It's all right," she whispered, but her voice shook. "It's all right." Harry stared at his hand as if it didn't belong to him. His nails looked darker than they had that morning. Just barely. Like they were deciding what shape they wanted. The night before the first task, Harry sat alone on his bed, curtains drawn. The dormitory was loud with everyone pretending to sleep. Neville's breathing, Seamus shifting, Ron turning over, restless. Harry held the vial in his palm. The potion inside didn't move like liquid. It clung to the glass like it was alive. He didn't want to drink it. He didn't want anything from Snape. But he also didn't want to wake up tomorrow and find out he'd become something he couldn't control in front of thousands of people. The worst part wasn't the fear of death. It was the fear of living after. Living with everyone's eyes on him. Living with disgust. Living with. Harry swallowed hard. He uncorked the vial. The smell hit him instantly. Bitter, herbal, sharp, and underneath it, something metallic that made his stomach twist. His mouth watered in a way that felt wrong. He stared at the potion for several seconds. Then he raised it to his lips and drank. It was thick and vile like swallowing cold ash. Harry gagged, eyes watering. His stomach lurched. For a moment, he thought he might vomit. Then the potion spread through him like winter. Not cold on the skin. Cold in the blood. His heartbeat slowed. The itch under his skin dulled. The heat inside him retreated, sullen and muffled. Harry exhaled shakily. He set the empty vial on his bedside table and lay back, staring up into darkness. For the first time all day, the castle sounded normal. Not loud, not sharp, not layered with too much information. His eyes felt heavy, and just as he started to drift, half asleep, he heard something that made his body go rigid again. A sound, faint and far away. Not inside the castle. Outside. A long, low howl that slid across the grounds like a blade. Harry's eyes snapped open. His breath caught. He sat up, heart pounding despite the potion's chill. The howl came again, distant, almost lost in the wind. And Harry realized, with a sick certainty, that it wasn't just a sound. It was a call. His hands clenched in the blankets. Under his fingertips, his nails scraped fabric. Too sharp. Harry stared down into the darkness and saw them, longer than they should be, darker, curving just slightly. A whisper moved through his mind, not a voice, not words, just instinct. Tomorrow. Fire. Blood. Harry pressed his hands against the mattress, trying to force them still. Trying to force himself still. Outside, the moon faded behind cloud. But Harry could feel it anyway. Watching. Waiting. And somewhere deep inside his chest, something answered it, quietly, hungrily, like it had been awake for a long time. The arena smelled like fear. Harry realized at the moment he stepped out from the tent and into the open air. It wasn't a metaphor. It wasn't imagination. It was a real, sharp scent, sweat, salt, hot breath, and something sour beneath it that made his stomach tighten. Thousands of people sat in the stands, packed so tightly they looked like a single creature with too many eyes. They were cheering, shouting, roaring his name, but the roar didn't feel friendly to Harry. It felt hungry, like a crowd could devour you if you gave it the wrong show. Harry kept his face still. The wolfsbane potion from the night before had dulled the edges of the world. His hearing wasn't slicing through stone anymore. His skin didn't feel like it was crawling off his bones. But it hadn't fixed anything. It had just pushed the beast deeper. And the deeper it went, the heavier it felt. Potter. The voice was sharp, crisp, and annoyed as always. Professor Minerva McGonagall stood near the tent entrance, looking like someone had personally insulted her entire bloodline by putting a 14-year-old into a death tournament. She didn't touch him, but her posture was protective in the way she didn't know how to admit. "Remember," she said, low enough that the others couldn't hear, "you do not need to win. You need to survive." Harry swallowed. "Right. Stay on your broom if you can," she added. "Do not get reckless." Harry almost laughed, but the sound died in his throat because a sudden gust of wind brought a scent through the air, hot, reptilian, smoky. His body reacted instantly. His pupils sharpened. His muscles tensed. His heartbeat stuttered and then surged, not with fear, but with something worse. Recognition. Like his blood knew what a predator was and wanted to answer it. Harry clenched his jaw so hard his teeth ached. McGonagall's eyes narrowed, as if she could see the shift in him without knowing what it meant. "Potter." "I'm fine," Harry said quickly. Behind him, Ludo Bagman was bouncing on his heels with excitement. "He's ready, Minerva. Look at him, brave as a lion." McGonagall's mouth tightened. "Yes, brave." Her gaze flicked to Harry again, and for a second, her expression softened. "Focus on the egg," she murmured. "Nothing else." Harry nodded. He stepped forward. The crowd's roar slammed into him. For a second, the sound made his head ring. Then his senses adjusted, and he could pick out individual voices in the chaos. "Look at him. Poor boy. Bet he dies. He's not supposed to be here." Harry's throat tightened. He walked to the center of the arena. The grass flattened beneath his boots. The sky above was hard and bright. The air was cold, but the scent of smoke grew stronger with every step. A whistle shrieked. A gate groaned open, and the dragon stepped into the sunlight. It was bigger than anything Harry had ever seen, bigger than in the books, bigger than in his nightmares. Black scales like armored plates, wings that spread like torn shadows. Its eyes were molten gold, ancient and furious. The crowd erupted. Harry's stomach dropped. His wand felt too small in his hand. The dragon's nostrils flared, and it locked onto him. Harry could feel it, the way a predator chooses a target, the way its attention narrowed until the rest of the world vanished. Something deep inside Harry lifted its head. A pulse ran through his arms. His fingers tightened around the wand. The wolfsbane's chill cracked. Bagman's voice boomed from somewhere above, announcing rules Harry already knew. But Harry hardly heard him, because the dragon's breath rolled out in a low growl that vibrated in the ground. Harry's body leaned forward slightly, instinctive, involuntary, like he was preparing to spring. No. Harry forced his feet to stay planted, forced his breathing slow. He had a plan. He had practiced. He could do this like everyone else. Summon his broom, keep moving, grab the egg, get out. He raised his wand. Accio, firebolt. The words came out rougher than usual, like they scraped his throat on the way out. The air snapped, and somewhere far away, his broom surged toward him. The dragon watched. It didn't care about brooms. It cared about him. Harry backed away, eyes on the dragon's claws. His heart pounded hard enough to shake his ribs. The dragon's tail shifted, sweeping the grass with the lazy confidence of something that had never needed to hurry. Harry's broom came streaking in, fast as an arrow. He jumped. For a second, just a second, relief flickered through him as his fingers caught the handle. Then the dragon moved. It lunged with shocking speed, jaws opening wide. Harry jerked upward, barely clearing the snap of teeth below him. Heat blasted his legs. The smell of flame hit his face. The crowd screamed. Harry rose, wind tearing at his robe, and the dragon roared again. Not pain. Challenge. It leapt, wings slamming open, and launched into the air. Harry's breath caught. It wasn't supposed to fly like that. Not with its weight. Not that fast. The dragon's shadow swallowed him. Harry swerved hard, nearly falling off his broom, and the dragon's claws raked through empty air where his head had been a second ago. The dragon banked, circling. Harry's hands were slick with sweat. His plan was unraveling. He darted low, trying to make a run for the nest, trying to remember every tip he'd been given. Keep moving, stay calm, don't panic. The dragon dove. Harry felt the change in the air. He heard the wings. He smelled the heat. He turned. Too slow. A gust of scorching breath washed over him. Pain exploded across his back like someone had poured molten metal on his skin. Harry screamed. The sound ripped out of him before he could stop it. His broom wobbled violently. He started to fall. For a heartbeat, the world tilted, the stands spinning, the grass rushing up. Harry's fingers tightened around the broom handle with desperate strength. And something inside him snapped. Not like a bone, like a chain. Cold wolfsbane restraint shattered under pure survival instinct. A surge of heat slammed through Harry's body. His vision sharpened. The air became thick with detail, every scent, every sound, every movement. His heartbeat turned into a pounding drumbeat that matched the roar rising in his chest. Harry didn't think. He reacted. He pulled his broom up with a strength that felt wrong, too strong, and his arms didn't shake. He didn't feel the burn on his back anymore. He could smell his own blood. He could taste it. The dragon turned, lining up to strike again. Harry's lips peeled back from his teeth in a snarl he didn't choose. The crowd screaming blurred into noise. The dragon dove. Harry met it. He swerved directly toward the beast instead of away, and at the last second he dropped under its jaw, so close he could see the individual scales on its throat. The dragon's teeth snapped. Harry's wand arm moved without thought. Impedimenta! The spell hit the dragon's face and exploded like a hammer. The creature's head jolted, its flight stuttering. Harry used the opening. He shot straight down toward the nest, diving too fast, the ground rushing up. His mind, what was left of it, screamed that he would die if he didn't pull up. But the wolf part of him didn't care about falling. It cared about winning. It cared about taking. Harry yanked up at the last moment, barely missing the ground, skimming the grass, so low his boots brushed it. Dirt and wind and smoke hit his face. The nest was ahead. The egg gleamed gold between the dragon's hoard. Harry surged forward. The dragon roared behind him. Harry's hearing caught the sound of its claws hitting earth, heavy, furious. The dragon landed, shaking the arena. Harry's chest tightened. He could smell the dragon's rage like it was a physical thing. He dove toward the nest. The dragon's tail snapped toward him. Harry twisted, but not enough. The tail hit him midair. He slammed into the ground hard enough to knock breath from his lungs. His broom skittered away. For a second, everything went white. Then the wolf inside him snarled and dragged him back. Harry pushed himself up on shaking arms. The egg was only a few yards away. The dragon stomped closer. Each step shook the earth. Harry's vision blurred at the edges. Pain flared again in his back and ribs, but it didn't slow him. His body felt like it belonged to something built for violence. He stood. His wand felt like a toothpick now. The dragon lowered its head, hot breath rolling over him. Harry smelled burned grass, hot scales, blood, his own blood. And in that moment, something horrifyingly simple clicked inside him. If you run, it will chase. If you show fear, it will kill. Harry didn't run. He bared his teeth. The crowd's noise faded into stunned silence as they watched a boy stand in front of a dragon like he was challenging it. The dragon's eyes narrowed. It opened its jaws. Fire gathered. Harry's magic surged. Wild, thick, not precise, but powerful. Protego. A shield burst from his wand, larger than it had ever been. Not a clean dome, but a thick wall of shimmering force. The dragon's fire slammed into it. Heat roared around him, the air burning his lungs, but the shield held, cracking, trembling, yet holding. Harry's arms shook under the force. And in that roar of flame, his body changed. He felt it, not like a spell, but like something deep in his blood pulling at his bones. His spine arched. His shoulders broadened. His fingers shifted. Harry's hand clenched, and the nails extended into dark, sharp claws. He could feel them as clearly as he could feel his heartbeat. A murmur rippled through the stands. Not cheering. Not screaming. Whispering. Did you see? His hands. Oh God. Harry's breath came out as a low growl. He couldn't stop it. He didn't even want to. The dragon's fire sputtered, then died as it drew breath again. Harry dropped the shield and sprinted toward the nest. He moved faster than he ever had in his life, legs eating the ground, body light and furious. The dragon lunged. Harry slid under a claw, claws digging into earth, and the movement was too smooth, too animal, too perfect. He reached the nest. The egg gleamed, warm as sunlight. Harry grabbed it. His fingers tightened around gold, and the metal bent slightly under his grip. His eyes widened. He loosened his hold immediately, pulse pounding. The dragon roared, wheeling toward him. Harry turned and ran. He didn't think about his broom. He didn't think about spells. He just moved, fast and low, egg clutched to his chest like prey stolen from a beast. The dragon chased. Its breath washed over him. Its claws tore grass behind him. Harry could hear every scrape, every snap. He could smell the dragon's fury. The exit was ahead, officials waving him through. Harry surged toward it. The dragon lunged one last time. Something inside Harry exploded. He spun, not fully conscious, wand raised. A roar ripped out of him. Not a human shout. A wolfish roar, raw and primal. His magic burst outward in a shockwave, uncontrolled, instinctive. The force hit the dragon like a wall. The beast skidded backward, claws tearing grooves in the ground, wings flaring for balance. For a heartbeat, the dragon and the boy stared at each other. Predator to predator. Then Harry stumbled through the gate, the egg still in his arms. The officials grabbed him, hands on his shoulders, his arms, trying to steady him, trying to contain him. Harry whipped his head around, eyes flashing. The nearest official flinched. Harry froze. Because in that flinch, Harry smelled fear again. And his body answered it with a reflexive growl that made everyone step back. Harry's chest heaved. His hands were still clawed. He could feel the shape of his teeth against his lips. He could feel the weight of thousands of eyes on him. Slowly, as the adrenaline drained, the shift began to recede. His claws shortened. His fingers trembled. His breathing became ragged and human again. Pain crashed into him like a wave. His knees buckled. He dropped to the ground, clutching the egg as if it was the only thing keeping him upright. The crowd was quiet. Not the triumphant roar he'd imagined. Not the applause. A stunned, horrified hush. Above him, Bagman's voice faltered for the first time ever. And, Harry Potter has retrieved his golden egg. The applause that followed was scattered, hesitant, like people weren't sure if clapping was safe. Harry lifted his head. Across the arena, the judges stood in a line. Cornelius Fudge looked white with panic. Albus Dumbledore was still, his eyes fixed on Harry with an expression Harry couldn't read. Shock, worry, something deeper. And Snape. Snape was watching like he'd seen it coming. Like he'd been waiting. Harry's stomach turned. Because now it wasn't just a strange feeling in his bones. Now it wasn't just a private fear. Now the entire wizarding world had seen it. Harry looked down at his hands. They were normal again, but he could still feel the ghost of claws in his fingertips. And he realized, with sick certainty, that the dragon hadn't been the most dangerous thing in that arena. It had been him. The applause didn't follow Harry out of the arena. It stayed behind in the stands, thin and awkward, like people were clapping because they didn't know what else to do with their hands. Harry heard it fade as officials half-guided, half-dragged him through a side passage meant for champions and judges, away from the crowd's eyes. But not away from their fear. Fear had scent now. It clung to robes. It stuck in throats. It hid under perfume and cologne and expensive hair pomade, but Harry could still smell it, sharp and sour, trailing after him like smoke. "Easy, easy, Potter," a healer muttered as they sat him on a bench behind a curtain. "Hold still." Harry tried. He did. His hand was shaking anyway. The burn across his back had stopped feeling like pain and started feeling like something alive, hot, pulsing, angry. Every breath made his ribs ache. His skin prickled where sweat cooled. A healer lifted the torn edge of his robes and sucked in a breath through their teeth. Harry stiffened. "It's not that bad," Harry lied automatically. The healer didn't answer. Instead, they waved their wand and began murmuring a spell. Coolness spread across Harry's back like water, and the worst of the sting eased. Harry's eyes half closed. Then he heard it. Not applause. Not Bagman's booming voice. Voices behind the curtain. Close. Angry. "Absolutely unacceptable," said a man's voice, tight with outrage and fear. Harry's muscles tensed. He knew that voice. Cornelius Fudge. "Minister," another voice said, calm and low, but carrying an iron edge beneath it. "Albus Dumbledore. Harry has just survived his first task. Now is not the time." "Not the time," Fudge snapped. Not the time. Dumbledore, that boy. He changed in front of everyone. Harry's jaw clenched. He felt the healer's hands pause on his shoulder, then resume a second later, slightly faster, as if they were suddenly nervous too. Dumbledore's voice stayed measured. Harry is 14. Whatever occurred. Whatever occurred. Fudge cut in, and his voice rose high enough that it carried through the curtain like a thrown knife. That looked like lycanthropy. Harry's stomach dropped. The word hit him like a curse. Lycanthropy. Werewolf. The healer's hand slipped slightly. Harry forced his breathing slow, but the wolf in his chest stirred, angered by the accusation, offended by the fear. You cannot let him continue, Fudge said. You cannot allow a creature to compete in an international tournament. He is not a creature, Dumbledore said, and for the first time, Harry heard real sharpness in his tone. He is a student. Then why did he snarl at the officials? Why did his nails, Merlin, help us? Why did he almost tear through the egg itself? Fudge's voice shook. Parents will hear about this. They will demand action. They are already hearing. Another voice chimed in with oily delight. Harry's skin went cold. Rita. Rita skiter. She's not supposed to be here, someone muttered angrily. She has a press pass, Rita said sweetly, and a duty to inform the public. It's rather thrilling, isn't it? The boy who lived, and now perhaps the boy who bites. Harry's hands curled into fists. His nails dug into his palms. The healer cleared their throat nervously. Potter, you need to relax. You'll reopen the burns. Harry forced his fingers to uncurl. Outside the curtain, Fudge's voice was louder now. This is a safety matter. I will not have a half-transformed child roaming Hogwarts. Cornelius, Dumbledore said, and the way he said it made the name sound like a warning. Hogwarts is not under ministry jurisdiction. It will be, Fudge hissed. If you don't handle this, the board will. International guests witnessed it. Durmstrang students, Beauxbatons, and Hogwarts students, Dumbledore said quietly, who have already learned something important today. What? Fudge demanded. That fear makes monsters faster than curses do. Silence. Harry almost smiled, but then he remembered the hush in the stands. The flinch of the official when Harry growled. The way the clapping had died like it was ashamed. And the smile vanished. Because the fear wasn't imaginary. It had been real. And it was coming for him. Harry's burns were wrapped. His ribs were still bruised. The healer gave him a potion that tasted like boiled weeds and told him to drink it slowly or he'd choke. Harry drank it anyway. When they finally let him out from behind the curtain, the corridor was crowded. Not with cheering Gryffindors. With adults. Teachers. Aurors. Ministry officials. Judges. Harry stepped out and felt their eyes on him like pins. Some people stared openly. Some looked away too quickly. One woman, an official he didn't recognize, clutched her purse so tightly her knuckles went white. Harry's throat tightened. He kept his face blank and walked forward. Someone moved in front of him. Dumbledore. He looked older than usual in that corridor light. His eyes were bright, but there was a heaviness behind them Harry hadn't seen before. Harry, Dumbledore said softly. Harry wanted to ask 100 questions. What was that? Why did it happen? Am I cursed? Am I dangerous? Instead, what came out was, I didn't mean to. Dumbledore's expression flickered. Pain, perhaps, or regret. I know, he said. Harry searched his face. Do you know what it is? Dumbledore hesitated. That hesitation was worse than a yes. Before Dumbledore could answer, Fudge stepped forward. His face was pale, shiny with sweat, and his eyes kept flicking quickly, nervously, to Harry's hands, as if they might sprout claws again at any moment. Harry, Fudge said, forcing cheer into his voice like he was trying to sweeten poison. My boy, we need to have a little talk. Harry stared at him. My boy, Fudge repeated, and the smile wobbled. Just a few questions. For safety. Harry's stomach clenched. Now? Harry asked. Fudge nodded too quickly. Yes. Now. There's been concern. Harry glanced at Dumbledore. Dumbledore's gaze was steady. You are not required to answer anything you do not understand. Fudge's smile tightened. Albus, this isn't helping. Dumbledore didn't look at him. I wasn't trying to help you, Cornelius. Rita Skeeter appeared like a vulture sensing blood. Her quill was already floating at her shoulder, scribbling without touching paper. Harry, she exclaimed, voice bright and delighted. Would you care to tell the public what it felt like to transform? Were you frightened? Or did you enjoy it? Harry's vision sharpened dangerously. He could smell her excitement. It made him sick. No, Harry said flatly. Rito poted. No? Oh, what a shame. The public loves honesty. She leaned closer, eyes glittering. Tell me, Harry, did you know you were like this? Did Dumbledore know? Is Hogwarts harboring dangerous magical beings now? Harry's hands clenched. Dumbledore stepped forward, and the air shifted around him, warm and sharp, like a storm building. Miss Skeeter, Dumbledore said mildly, I believe you have outstayed your welcome in this corridor. Rito smiled. Headmaster, you can't deny the public's right to. The public, Dumbledore said, and his voice was still gentle, does not have the right to tear apart a child because it makes a better story. Rita's smile sharpened. A child or a creature? That word again. Creature. Harry felt something in his chest lurch. He didn't growl. He didn't snarl. But his eyes fixed on Rita's face with such intensity that she actually took a step back. For a moment, just a moment, fear flickered across her scent. Harry inhaled it. His stomach turned with a sudden, awful hunger. His fingers twitched. He turned away quickly, before he did something he couldn't undo. The Gryffindor common room was packed when Harry finally returned. They erupted when he came through the portrait hole, cheering, shouting, clapping. Fred and George hoisted him half off the ground. Someone shoved a butterbeer into his hand. It should have felt good. It didn't, because when Harry looked past the faces, he saw it. Not everyone was cheering. Some were staring. Some were whispering. Some were looking at him like they were trying to decide if he was still Harry. Harry's throat tightened. He forced a grin anyway. He pushed through the crowd until he found Ron and Hermione near the fireplace. Hermione's face was pale with fury. Ron's was tense with something else. Worry, yes, but also uncertainty. Harry felt it like a pinprick in his ribs. He hated it. Harry, Hermione said instantly, grabbing his arm. Her fingers were warm, solid, real. Are you all right? Harry nodded. I'm fine. Ron's eyes flicked to Harry's hands. Harry saw it. He couldn't pretend he didn't. What's wrong? Harry asked, voice tight. Ron's ears went pink. Nothing. Hermione glared at Ron. Don't be stupid. Ron's jaw tightened. I'm not being stupid. I'm just. He stopped, swallowed. Harry's stomach turned. Just what? Harry asked quietly. Ron looked at him, and for a second Ron's face was the face of a boy who'd grown up hearing stories about werewolves whispered like nightmares, of men who bit and tore and spread curses. Just, you look different, Ron finished, voice small. Harry stared at him. He could smell Ron's fear. Not of Harry. Of what Harry might become. Harry's hands clenched. The room seemed louder suddenly, hotter, the fires crackled sharp enough to sting. Hermione's voice was fierce. He looked like he was trying not to die, Ron. Ron flinched. I know. I'm not saying he did anything wrong. Harry held up a hand. Stop. Both of them went quiet. Harry took a slow breath. He forced the wolf part of him down. Then he spoke, voice low. They're calling me a creature. Hermione's eyes flashed. Who? Fudge, Harry said. Rito. People in the corridor. People in the stands. Ron's face twisted. That's horrible. Harry stared at him. Is it? Ron opened his mouth and closed it again. Hermione squeezed Harry's arm harder. Harry, we'll figure out what's happening. There are conditions, bloodline magic, curses, potions. Harry's voice came out rougher than he intended. Snape said I inherited something. Hermione froze. What? Harry's hand went to his pocket automatically, feeling for something that wasn't there anymore. He'd left the vial behind. He gave me a potion, Harry said. He said it wasn't a cure. He said it was restraint. Hermione's eyes widened. Harry, what kind of potion? Harry swallowed. Wolfsbane. The silence that followed was absolute. Ron's face went pale. Hermione's lips parted slightly, then pressed together as if she was trying to hold in panic and keep her brain working at the same time. Wolfsbane, Ron whispered. That's for. I know what it's for, Harry snapped. The room seemed to tighten. A few nearby students glanced over. Hermione leaned closer, voice low and fast. Harry, Wolfsbane is normally for werewolves. But you weren't bitten, were you? Harry stared at her. No. Hermione's mind was racing. Harry could almost see it. That might be hereditary, or something rare. Ron swallowed hard. But werewolves? Harry's eyes flashed. Say it. Ron flinched. They're dangerous. The words landed like a blow. Harry's breath caught. His vision sharpened at the edges. For a moment, the wolf part of him surged forward, offended, enraged, wanting to prove something. Harry's nails scraped lightly against his palm. Hermione snapped. Ron. Ron's face crumpled. I didn't mean you, Harry. My dad told me stories. Harry's voice was quiet now, and that was worse. Yeah, I've heard stories too. Ron's eyes were wide, miserable. Harry, I'm sorry. Harry took a step back. He didn't trust himself to stand close. Hermione's eyes were wet with anger and fear. We're going to the library, she said fiercely, as if declaring war. Tonight. Harry nodded once. Ron looked between them, helpless. I'll come too. Harry hesitated. Then he nodded again, slowly. Because he didn't want to lose Ron to fear. And because, deep down, he knew fear was winning already. Later, as the common room began to empty, Harry slipped away. He didn't go to bed. He went to the window, pressed his forehead against the cool glass, and stared out at the grounds. The moon was rising again. Thin, pale, not full, but Harry could feel it anyway, like a pressure in his blood. A pull. He watched the forbidden forest in the distance. Dark, quiet, waiting. Harry's stomach twisted with a sudden, unwanted urge to go there, to run, to let his legs stretch, to breathe air that wasn't full of whispers and fear. He clenched his fists. Behind him, the portrait hole creaked, and footsteps entered. Harry didn't turn. He didn't need to. He could smell the person before they spoke. Potion ingredients. Cold stone. Bitterness. Snape. You performed, Snape said softly, as if they were discussing a school play. Harry's voice came out flat. I almost died. Snape's response was immediate. Yes, and you changed. Harry turned then, eyes flashing. Is that what you wanted? Snape's lip curled. Wanted? Don't flatter yourself, Potter. I merely anticipated the inevitable. Harry's chest tightened. Tell me what's happening. Snape's gaze flicked to the moonlit window, then back to Harry. You tell me. Harry's hands trembled. I didn't choose this. Snape's eyes narrowed. No, you did not. The words weren't kind. But they weren't cruel either. They were factual. Harry swallowed. So what am I? Snape stepped closer, voice low enough to be dangerous. You are, Snape said, a problem. Harry's jaw clenched. Snape continued. To the ministry, to the school, to anyone who prefers the world neat and controllable. You are a reminder that blood and magic do not obey politics. Harry stared at him, heart pounding. Snape's gaze sharpened. And if you lose control in the next task, Potter, If you truly turn, you will give them every excuse they need to destroy you. Harry's throat went dry. So what do I do? Snape's eyes flicked to Harry's hand again. Resist, Snape said. Harry laughed bitterly. That's your advice? Resist. Snape's voice snapped. No, learn the difference between resisting and denying. Harry went still. Snape's eyes held his. Deny it, and it will take you when you are weakest. Acknowledge it, and you may yet keep a leash on it. Harry's stomach twisted at the word leash. Snape turned as if he'd said all he intended to. You will take Wolfsbane again tomorrow evening. Harry's voice was sharp. Are you ordering me? Snape paused at the portrait hole and looked back, his expression unreadable. I am, Snape said quietly, trying to keep you alive in a world that would rather you be a monster. Then he was gone. Harry stood by the window, shaking. Outside, the moon rose higher. And inside Harry's chest, the wolf listened to Snape's words and did not argue. Because the wolf already knew. This tournament wasn't about dragons. It wasn't about glory. It was about whether Harry Potter could remain himself. While everyone waited for him to prove them right, Harry was called to the headmaster's office after midnight. Not sent for in the normal way. No prefect tapping his shoulder, no stern teacher cornering him in the corridor. Instead, his invisibility cloak had been left folded on his bed like a silent suggestion, and a slip of parchment sat on top of it. Come alone. No signature. No explanation. Harry stared at the words for a long time before he finally moved. Ron and Hermione were asleep. Hermione with a book half open on her chest. Ron with his mouth slightly open, like he'd been arguing in his dreams and lost. Harry didn't wake them. He didn't want to smell their worry again. He slipped under the cloak and left the dormitory like a ghost. The castle at night felt different now. Not just quieter, alive. He could hear the faint crackle of torches, the soft whisper of tapestries shifting in drafts, the distant click of someone's shoes far away, moving with purpose. He moved carefully, forcing his breathing slow. Name, place, time. Lupin's kind of trick, Harry thought suddenly, though he didn't know why his mind reached for that. He told himself again, Harry. Hogwarts. Midnight. His fingers flexed inside the cloak. They were normal. Still normal. But normal didn't feel like safety anymore. The gargoyle guarding the headmaster's office slid aside at the password Harry didn't speak aloud, because the moment he stepped near it, it moved on its own. Harry paused under the cloak. The gargoyle stared at empty air and said, gruffly, about time. Harry's stomach dropped. You can. I can smell trouble, the gargoyle muttered. And you're drenched in it. Go on. Harry climbed the moving staircase with a tight throat. When he stepped into Dumbledore's office, the warmth hit him immediately. Lemon drops, old parchment, polished wood, and something bright and clean that reminded him of sunlight after rain. Fawkes turned his head on his perch and regarded Harry with eyes like molten gold. For a second, Harry wondered what a phoenix smelled like. Then he realized, he already knew. Ash and rebirth. Fire that didn't destroy, but changed. Harry swallowed hard and pulled the cloak off. Dumbledore stood near his desk, hands folded behind his back. He didn't look surprised to see Harry there, as if he'd been expecting him for hours. Thank you for coming, Dumbledore said gently. Harry's voice came out rough. You said come alone. I did, Dumbledore agreed. And you did. Harry stared at him. Why? Dumbledore's eyes were tired. Because what happened in the arena was not a rumor anymore. And because I would rather you hear the truth here than in a ministry hearing room. Harry's stomach tightened. So you do know. Dumbledore didn't answer immediately. Instead, he moved toward the door of his office and opened it. Someone stepped inside. Harry's breath caught. Remus Lupin looked the same and different at the same time. Older than Harry remembered from the last time he'd seen him, but steadier, as if he'd been forced into hardness and had decided to become something shaped instead of shattered. His eyes landed on Harry and softened. Hello, Harry, Lupin said quietly. Harry's throat tightened, and for a second he couldn't speak, because his senses picked up something beneath the familiar. Something faint and bitter. Something herbal and sharp. Wolfsbane. Lupin had been taking it. Harry's pulse kicked. Why are you here? Lupin stepped closer, slow and careful. Because you're not the only one who knows what it's like to wake up and realize your body doesn't belong to you anymore. Harry stared. A hot, defensive anger rose in his chest. That's not what I am, Harry said immediately, too fast. I wasn't bitten. Lupin didn't flinch. He just nodded, as if he'd expected that exact reaction. I know, Lupin said. Dumbledore told me what Snape brewed for you, and what happened in the arena. Harry's eyes flicked to Dumbledore. He told you. I asked him to, Dumbledore said, voice calm. Because you need someone who understands control from the inside, not from a textbook. Harry's hands clenched. So what is it? Lupin's gaze held his. It's not straightforward, but it has rules. Harry's chest tightened at the word rules. Rules meant structure. Structure meant this wasn't just random madness in his blood. Sit, Lupin said gently, gesturing toward a chair. Harry didn't sit at first. He stood there like he was waiting for a sentence. Lupin's voice remained soft. Harry, I'm not here to label you. I'm here to stop you from being destroyed by people who will label you. Harry's jaw tightened. Slowly, he sat. Dumbledore took the chair opposite him. Lupin remained standing for a moment, looking at Harry as if he was memorizing him. Not his face, but the tension in his shoulders, the way his fingers curled, the controlled tightness behind his eyes. You're fighting it, Lupin said. Harry's voice was bitter. Shouldn't I? Lupin sat down as well, folding his hands. Yes and no. Harry's brow furrowed. Lupin leaned forward slightly. There's fighting, meaning you recognize the danger and you resist the pull. And then there's denial, meaning you pretend it isn't there until the moment it takes you. Harry went still, because Snape had said almost the same thing. Lupin's eyes stayed on his. Denial is how people get hurt. Fighting, with knowledge, is how people survive. Harry swallowed, throat tight. So tell me, what is it? Lupin hesitated, choosing his words like they mattered. Traditional lycanthropy is a curse, Lupin said finally. A magical infection. It's transferred by bite. It changes the body in a very specific way, tied to the full moon. Harry nodded stiffly. He'd read enough to know that. But Lupin continued, there are rare bloodlines. Old magic. Families with diluted strains. It isn't the same as being bitten. It doesn't always behave the same way. Harry's heartbeat thudded. You're saying it's in my family. Dumbledore's eyes lowered for a moment. There are things your parents never had time to tell you. Harry's stomach twisted. Lupin's voice remained steady. Sometimes a strain stays dormant for generations. Sometimes it wakes under stress. Sometimes, he looked at Harry's forehead briefly, then away. Sometimes extreme magical trauma makes the body receptive. Harry's mouth went dry. He thought of Voldemort's curse, of his scar, of years of fear. He whispered, so I'm half. Lupin shook his head. Labels aren't helpful. What matters is this. You have access to werewolf traits without being a full cursed werewolf. Harry stared at him. So why does it feel like I'm losing my mind? Because the instincts are real, Lupin said simply. They aren't metaphor. They're a second set of signals: fight, hunt, protect, dominate. When adrenaline spikes, those instincts try to take the wheel. Harry's fingers dug into the armrest. And Wolfsbane? Lupin exhaled. Wolfsbane helps. It doesn't cure. It doesn't remove it. It just makes the mind clearer during a shift. Harry's eyes narrowed. Then why do I feel like it makes me empty? Lupin's expression tightened with painful understanding. Because it dulls you. It wraps your emotions in cloth. That's why it's a choice for some werewolves and a necessity for others. Harry swallowed hard. Dumbledore spoke softly. Snape brewed it for you without asking. That was not his right. Harry's laugh was short and humorless. Since when does Snape care about rights? Lupin's mouth twitched faintly. He cares about consequences. The room went quiet. Harry's pulse still pounded, but some part of him felt steadier, because at least someone was speaking plainly. Lupin leaned forward. Now we talk about control. Harry's voice was flat. Control like locking it up. Lupin shook his head. Control like steering. Harry frowned. Lupin held up one finger. First rule, your body shifts fastest when your mind is lost in emotion. Harry's jaw tightened. He didn't need to be told that. Lupin held up a second finger. Second rule, fear is a trigger. Humiliation is a trigger. Anger is a trigger. Anything that makes you feel cornered is a trigger. Harry stared, remembering the stance. The whispers. The flinch. Lupin held up a third finger. Third rule, your magic will change with it. Harry went still. Change how? Lupin's gaze sharpened. You will become stronger, faster, harder to hurt. But precision will slip. Your spells may become heavier, more violent, less controlled. You might overpower a shield charm and still fail at a delicate transfiguration. Harry's throat went dry. That was exactly what it had felt like. Lupin's voice stayed calm. So we practice simple magic under stress until it becomes muscle memory. Then, when the instincts push forward, your wand still remembers the right shape. Harry's hands trembled slightly. How do we practice stress? Lupin's eyes flicked toward Dumbledore. We simulate it safely, and we build anchors. Anchors? Harry repeated. Lupin nodded. Things that pull you back to yourself. A phrase, a memory, a sensation, something human. Harry swallowed. And if that doesn't work? Lupin's voice went quieter. Then we make sure you're not alone when the moon is full. Harry's stomach dropped. The moon doesn't have to be full, Harry said, voice tight. It happened with the dragon. Lupin nodded. Yes, because fear and pain can act like a full moon. They can push you toward an override. Harry stared at his own hands as if they might betray him again. Dumbledore's voice was gentle. Harry, you have endured more fear than most adults. If something inside you learned to survive by becoming sharp, it is not a moral failure. It is a wound. Harry's eyes burned unexpectedly. He blinked hard. Lupin stood up. Come on. Harry looked up, wary. Where? Lupin's expression was calm but firm. Somewhere private. Somewhere you can test what you are without an audience. They use an empty classroom near the top of a tower, cold stone, dust, and moonlight spilling in thin stripes through high windows. Harry stood in the center, while Lupin drew a circle on the floor with chalk that wasn't chalk, silver-gray dust that made Harry's skin prickle. Harry stiffened. What is that? Lupin paused. Not silver. Don't worry. Harry's throat tightened anyway. Lupin's eyes softened. Silver is a hard counter. You need to know that. But I won't use it on you. Harry swallowed. It hurts. Lupin nodded once. Yes. Harry stared at him. How do you? He stopped. How do you live like that? Lupin seemed to hear the question anyway. You adapt, or you die. Harry's hands clenched. Lupin stepped back and raised his wand. All right, first anchor. Harry's voice was tight. I don't have one. You do, Lupin said. You just don't know it yet. Close your eyes. Harry hesitated. Then he closed them. His senses immediately expanded. He heard Lupin's breathing. He heard Dumbledore's robe shift behind him. He smelled dust and stone and old ink and something faintly wild in Lupin's scent, like pine and rain. Lupin's voice came softly. Name, place, time. Harry whispered, Harry. Hogwarts. Night. Good, Lupin said. Again. Harry repeated it. And again. Each time the words steadied him. Not like magic, but like a rope. Lupin's voice was still gentle. Now open your eyes. Harry opened them. Lupin flicked his wand. Stupefy. A red bolt shot toward Harry. Harry reacted instantly, too instantly. His body lunged. Not to dodge. To attack. Harry's heart slammed in his chest as he caught himself at the last second and threw up his wand. Protego! The shield burst out, thick, heavy, powerful. It took the stunner and absorbed it with a dull boom. Harry's arms shook. Lupin's eyes narrowed. Again. Harry's breath came fast. I did it. You did, Lupin agreed. And you almost jumped forward like a wolf meeting a threat head-on. Again. Harry's jaw clenched. Lupin fired another stunner. Harry's body tensed, the instinct surging. Charge, break, dominate. Harry, Lupin said sharply, and the sudden firmness cut through the instinct like a snap of a leash. Anchor. Harry forced his breath in. Harry, Hogwarts, Knight. He raised his wand. Protego. The shield formed cleaner this time. Less brute. More shape. Lupin nodded. Better. Harry's hands trembled anyway. They practiced for what felt like hours. Simple spells, fast reactions, deliberate breathing. Lupin increased the speed gradually, increased the pressure, forced Harry to choose control over instinct again and again until Harry's shoulders ached and his teeth hurt from clenching them. At some point, Harry realized his nails had darkened slightly. He stared down at them, stomach twisting. Lupin spoke quietly, as if he'd been waiting for Harry to notice. That's your warning sign. Harry's voice was hoarse. So, when I see that, I what? Drink wolfsbane? Lupin shook his head. Not always. Wolfsbane is a tool, but you can't rely on it like a crutch. You need skill too. Harry's laugh came out broken. Skill. Like I'm learning to ride a broom. Lupin's expression was grimly kind. Yes, except the broom is angry and wants to throw you into a wall. Harry swallowed. Then a new voice cut into the classroom like a blade. Sentimental nonsense. Harry's head snapped up. Snape stood in the doorway, robe hanging like a shadow. His eyes flicked over the circle on the floor, the dust, Harry's posture. Disgust curled his mouth. You're late, Lupin said quietly. Snape's lip curled. I have responsibilities beyond babysitting. Harry's chest tightened automatically. Anger rose. His nails scraped faintly against his palm. Lupin's gaze flicked to Harry instantly. Anchor, he murmured. Harry forced the words through clenched teeth. Harry, Hogwarts, Knight. Snape's eyes narrowed as if he'd noticed the change and disliked being proven right. He stepped forward and placed a small vial on a desk with a sharp click. Wolfsbane, Snape said flatly. Drink it tomorrow evening, and the next, until you learn the luxury of not needing it. Lupin's voice remained calm. He's not a full werewolf. Snape's eyes were cold. His magic disagrees. His instincts disagree. The Ministry certainly disagrees. Harry's throat tightened. Snape's gaze snapped to him. Control yourself. Harry's voice came out low, dangerous. I am. Snape's lip curled. Your definition of control is pathetic. Lupin's voice softened, but it carried steel. Enough. Snape's eyes flicked to Lupin. Do not pretend you're doing him a kindness. You're indulging him. Lupin didn't move. No, I'm teaching him to survive the parts of himself the world wants to execute. Harry's breath caught. Snape's face tightened, just for a heartbeat, like something struck too close. Then Snape sneered. Romantic. He turned toward Dumbledore. If he loses control publicly again, Cornelius will demand inspections. Wards, restrictions, perhaps removal. You know it. Dumbledore's voice was quiet, heavy. Yes. Snape's gaze returned to Harry. So learn quickly. Then he left, the door shutting like a verdict. Harry stood frozen, chest heaving. Lupin watched him. That, Lupin said softly, is another lesson. Some people will always see the wolf first. Harry's voice was raw. So what do I do? Lupin stepped closer. You make sure they're wrong about what the wolf means. Harry's hands shook. He stared at the vial on the desk, as if it might bite him. Dumbledore spoke gently from behind. Harry, you are not alone in this. Harry almost laughed. He was alone. He was alone in his dorm, alone in his skin, alone in a tournament designed to break people. But then Lupin's hand rested briefly on Harry's shoulder. Light, careful, not trapping him, just present. And Harry's throat tightened. Because for the first time since the arena, he didn't feel like a monster being studied. He felt like a boy being taught. Later that night, Harry returned to Gryffindor with exhaustion in his bones. Ron was asleep. Hermione's books were stacked near her bed, like she'd been building a wall out of research. Harry climbed into bed and pulled the curtains shut. His muscles ached. His mind buzzed. He stared at the darkness, repeating the anchor silently. Harry, Hogwarts, night. His breathing slowed. Somewhere deep inside him, the wolf shifted and settled, not gone, never gone, but quieter. Then he smelled something. Paper. Ink. Not Hermione's ink. Not Ron's. Different. His eyes snapped open. Harry reached under his pillow. His fingers touched parchment. He pulled it out, heart pounding. The note was short. No signature. The handwriting was sharp and unfamiliar. We know what you are. If you want to stay human, come to the old Olery at midnight. Alone. Harry stared at the words until they blurred. His nails prickled, wanting to lengthen. His heartbeat sped. Fear. Anger. Humiliation. All triggers. Harry clenched the note in his fist so tightly it crumpled. Then he forced himself to breathe. Harry, Hogwarts, night. The wolf inside him stirred at the word alone like it was a dare. And Harry realized, with a sick twist in his stomach, that the tournament wasn't the only thing hunting him. The old Olery smelled like rot and feathers and secrets. Harry hated at the moment he stepped inside. He'd come under the invisibility cloak, heart hammering, the crumpled note sweating in his pocket like it was alive. The night wind sliced through broken gaps in the stone, making the entire tower breathe in slow, cold sighs. Owls shifted on their perches above, silent and watching. A few clicked their beaks in irritation as if Harry had interrupted their sleep. Harry tightened his grip on his wand. Harry, Hogwarts, night. He repeated the anchor in his head, but it didn't help much when the moonlight fell through the broken roof in a pale, thin beam. Not full, not even close. Yet his skin prickled anyway. You came. The voice floated out of the shadows below the rafters. Harry spun, one up instantly. His body wanted to lunge forward, charge, dominate, break, but he forced his feet to stay planted. A student stepped into the moonlight. A Slytherin, tall, pale, with slick hair and the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. Harry recognized him, one of the older ones. 6th or 7th year. Not famous, not a prefect, but he'd been watching Harry lately. And Harry had noticed. Not because he wanted to, because his senses made him. What do you want? Harry demanded. The Slytherin's smile widened. Relax. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to help. Harry's eyes narrowed. Right. The Slytherin's gaze flicked over Harry's face in a way that made Harry's stomach turn, like he was looking at an animal and deciding whether it was worth feeding. My name is Thorn, the boy said lightly, and I'm part of a group that understands what you are. Harry's jaw clenched. I'm Harry. Thorn chuckled. Everyone knows who you are. That's the point. Harry's grip tightened on his wand. You wrote the note. Yes. Thorn stepped closer, hands held out, as if calming a skittish dog. Harry, listen. The ministry is going to come down hard. People are already terrified. Your friends are scared. Your teachers. My teachers aren't scared, Harry snapped, though he wasn't sure it was true. Thorn's smile softened in fake sympathy. You don't smell it yet. Harry froze. Thorn's eyes glittered. Oh, you do. That's why you're here. Because you can smell fear. You can hear whispers. You can tell when someone's lying. It's like having a gift, isn't it? Harry's stomach twisted. Thorn leaned in, voice low and coaxing. Your gift is going to get you killed if you keep pretending you're normal. Harry's pulse pounded hard. Get to the point. Thorn sighed theatrically, then reached into his robes and pulled out a small vial. The glass glinted in moonlight. The liquid inside was pale, almost silver, but not quite. Harry's skin flinched instinctively. Not silver, he told himself. But it looked too close. Thorn held it out. This helps. It's stabilizing. Makes the change less violent. Less embarrassing. Harry didn't move. What is it? Thorn's smile sharpened. A cleaner alternative to wolfsbane. Wolfsbane makes you weak. It makes you feel empty. This makes you better. Harry's throat tightened. Better. The word landed wrong. What's in it? Harry demanded. Thorn shrugged. Things you don't need to worry about. Harry's voice was cold. Then I'm not drinking it. Thorn's eyes hardened. Harry, don't be stupid. The word stupid hit Harry like a slap, because it sounded like people laughing in the stands, like teachers whispering, like Ron's fear turned into a sentence. Harry's nails scraped faintly against his palm. Thorn noticed. His smile returned, delighted. There it is. See? You're already slipping. You can't hold it back forever. Harry forced his breathing slow. Harry, Hogwarts. Night. Thorn stepped closer again. Listen, there are people in this castle who know the old ways. Blood magic. Creature heritage. We have books Hogwarts won't let you read. Rituals. Potions. Training. Harry stared at him. Thorn lowered his voice. And we have protection. We can keep the ministry from putting you in chains. Harry's stomach lurched. Chains. That was what it felt like the world was preparing to do. Wrap him up, label him, lock him away. Thorn's voice softened. You don't have to do this alone. Harry's heart twisted painfully at the word alone. But then he remembered Lupin's hand on his shoulder, Hermione's fierce eyes, Ron's miserable apology. He wasn't alone. Thorn's help smelled like something else. Ambition. Hunger. A sharp, sickly sweetness like wrought under perfume. Harry took a step back. You're using me. Thorn's smile faltered for half a second. Then it returned, colder. No, I'm offering you a way out. Harry's wand stayed raised. Who are you working for? Thorn's eyes narrowed. Careful, Potter. Harry's voice dropped. Tell me. Thorn stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed softly. You really don't understand what you are yet. Harry felt anger surge, hot and fast. His vision sharpened. His nails lengthened a fraction. Thorn's smile widened, satisfied. That's right. Let in. You can feel how easy it would be to stop begging, to stop caring what they think. Harry's breath came out too hard. The wolf inside him pushed forward like it smelled blood. Thorn stepped closer, voice a whisper now. Drink it, and after the second task, when you're drowning and desperate, you'll thank me. Harry's stomach dropped at the mention of the second task. He wasn't supposed to know Harry would struggle underwater. Unless. You know about the tasks, Harry said sharply. Thorn's eyes flickered. Just once. Confirmation. Harry's grip tightened. You're cheating. Thorn's smile was all teeth now. Everyone is. Harry's chest heaved. He didn't know what happened next, whether Thorn moved first or whether Harry's instincts decided the conversation was already a trap. But suddenly Thorn's hand darted forward toward Harry's pocket. Toward the note. Toward the cloak. Harry reacted. Fast. Too fast. He grabbed Thorn's wrist with a crushing grip. Thorn gasped, eyes widening. Harry felt bones shift under his fingers. He could break it. He could break it so easily. Harry's throat tightened. Thorn's scent changed. Fear. Real fear. And the wolf inside Harry surged toward it like it was a meal. Harry's lips peeled back. A low growl vibrated in his chest. Thorn's face went pale. Let go. Harry's nails pressed into skin. Blood scent rose. Harry's mind flashed with a horrifying image, his teeth in Thorn's throat. Harry's stomach lurched. He released Thorn violently and stumbled backward, breathing hard. Thorn clutched his wrist, glaring now, shaking. "You're proving my point." Harry's voice came out ragged. "Get away from me." Thorn's eyes glittered with hatred and triumph. "You'll come back." Harry's wand trembled. "No." Thorn smiled, cruel. "Yes, because when the whole school looks at you like you're a disease, you'll want someone who doesn't flinch." Then Thorn stepped back into shadow and disappeared down the stairwell. Harry stood alone in the Ollery, shaking. He could still smell Thorn's fear. He could still taste the idea of blood at the back of his throat. Harry's hands trembled as he shoved them into his pockets, like hiding them could hide what they wanted. He stumbled out into the cold night air and leaned against the stone wall, breathing hard. "Harry, Hogwarts, night." The words steadied him. Barely, but they held. The next weeks became a slow grind toward December. Harry trained for the second task with Hermione's frantic efficiency and Lupin's brutal honesty. They practiced in private, late at night, where the castle was quiet and no one could watch him fail. Hermione found books that talked about merpeople, lake temperatures, charms for underwater breathing. Ron was quieter than usual, but he came anyway, sometimes to help, sometimes just to sit and make sure Harry wasn't alone. It mattered more than Ron knew. Lupin focused on something else entirely: stress. He didn't just teach Harry spells. He taught him to notice the moment his body began to change. The subtle signs: heat in the chest, tightening in the jaw, nails tingling. "Don't wait until you're already snarling," Lupin said, circling Harry like an instructor around a dangerous animal. "You catch it early, you can steer it." Harry tried. He failed. He tried again. He learned that humiliation was the worst. Not pain, not even fear. Humiliation, being watched, judged, whispered about, made the wolf inside him surge forward like it wanted to rip the world apart. And Hogwarts had become a place full of whispers. Students didn't move away from him openly. They did something worse. They hesitated. They paused before sitting near him. They stopped talking when he walked past. First years stared like he was a storybook monster, then fled giggling and frightened. Slytherins smiled too brightly. Even some Gryffindors went quiet when he entered the common room. Harry told himself he didn't care. But his senses betrayed him. He could smell their fear. Every day, he could hear their whispers. Every night. Sometimes he'd lie in bed and listen to the castle settle and feel something inside him curl tighter and tighter, like the wolf was building a cage out of his ribs. The day of the Yule Ball arrived like a threat wrapped in glitter. The great hall was transformed. Ice sculptures, enchanted snow drifting from the ceiling, music floating through the air like something elegant and sharp. For most students, it was a night of excitement. For Harry, it was an arena with candles. He stood at the edge of the room in stiff dress robes, feeling like he'd been dressed for his own execution. Hermione had forced his hair into something slightly less wild and threatened bodily harm if he messed it up. Ron looked like he wanted to be swallowed by the floor. Harry didn't care about looking ridiculous. He cared about the way the room smelled. Perfume. Sweat. Champagne-like punch. Polished wood. And beneath it all, fear. Not everyone was afraid. Some students were simply curious. But enough were afraid that it made Harry's skin prickle. He could feel eyes tracking him. He could hear whispers sliding through the music. "That's him. Did you see his hands during the dragon? Mum says werewolves should be registered. He's dangerous." Harry's jaw clenched. His nails tingled. He forced his breathing slow. "Harry, Hogwarts, night." It helped. Until a girl from Ravenclaw, one Harry didn't recognize, laughed too loudly nearby and said, "Maybe he'll bite someone on the dance floor." Her friends giggled. Harry's vision sharpened. His heartbeat slammed. The wolf surged forward, offended and furious. Hermione appeared at his side like a shield. She looked radiant in periwinkle robes, but her eyes were sharp. Don't, she murmured instantly, voice low. Don't let them pull you into it. Harry swallowed hard. I'm trying. Hermione's fingers brushed his wrist, grounding. Look at me. Harry forced his eyes to hers. Hermione held his gaze like an anchor. You're Harry, she said quietly, fiercely. Not their story. Harry's throat tightened. He nodded once. Then he felt it. A scent cutting through the room. Not perfume, not punch. Something metallic, faint, like a blade that had been wiped clean. Harry's head turned instinctively. Across the hall, near the edge of the shadows, Thorn stood watching. He wasn't alone. Two older students stood with him, faces half hidden. One wore a signet ring that gleamed darkly. The other smiled like he was enjoying a private joke. Thorn raised his glass slightly in a silent toast. Harry's stomach twisted. Hermione noticed Harry's stare. What is it? Harry didn't answer. Because at that moment, Thorn turned and moved toward the doors. And Harry smelled something else, something that made his blood run cold. Silver. Not much. Just a trace. But enough. Enough to make his skin prickle and his teeth ache. Harry's pulse surged. The wolf inside him snarled. Hermione grabbed his arm. Harry, where are you going? Harry's voice was low. I need air. Hermione's eyes narrowed. Harry. Ron stepped closer, face tense. Mate, don't do something stupid. Harry flinched. The word stupid again. He forced himself to breathe. Harry, Hogwarts. Night. Then he pulled his arm gently from Hermione's grip. I'll be back. He left the great hall before he did something worse. Outside, the cold night air hit him like a slap. Harry stood on the steps, breathing hard, trying to clear the scents from his lungs. Inside, laughter and music drifted out like mocking warmth. Harry stared at the snow-covered grounds. He should have been in there, normal, dancing badly, laughing with Ron and Hermione. Instead, he was outside, alone, because the room was full of fear and jokes and a boy who wanted to feed his wolf. Harry's hands clenched. His nails dug into his palms. He didn't realize he'd started to growl until someone spoke behind him. Potter. Hottie Spoon. Professor Severus Snape stood in the doorway, watching him with a face like stone. Harry's chest tightened. Snape's nostrils flared slightly, as if he could smell Harry's adrenaline. You are agitated, Snape said flatly. Harry's voice was harsh. No kidding. Snape's eyes narrowed. Do you want to be removed from the school? Harry's jaw clenched. I didn't do anything. Not yet, Snape said coldly. Harry's breathing sharpened. His nails tingled. Snape's voice dropped. There are students in this castle who would enjoy provoking you into proving them right. Harry froze. Thorn, Harry said, and it came out like a growl. Snape's eyes flickered. So you noticed? Harry stared at him. You know about him. Snape's mouth curled with disgust. I know about foolish children playing with old magic. Harry's throat tightened. He offered me a potion. Snape's eyes sharpened. Did you drink it? No, Harry snapped. Snape's gaze held his for a moment, as if evaluating whether Harry was lying. Then Snape nodded once, curt. Good. Whatever he offered you is not meant to stabilize you. It was meant to make you useful. Harry's stomach turned. Snape continued, voice like ice. You're not the only one who understands how to exploit a creature's instincts. Harry flinched at the word creature, then forced himself not to react. Harry, Hogwarts. Night. Snape's gaze narrowed. Drink your wolfsbane. Harry's voice was bitter. I can't drink it every day. Snape's expression was cold. Even if you want to remain yourself. Harry stared at him. Hate and desperation tangled together. Snape's voice softened by a fraction, barely noticeable, where you can give them what they want. Harry's throat tightened. Snape turned away. Go back inside. Stay where there are witnesses. Do not follow him. Harry's voice snapped. I wasn't going to. Snape paused in the doorway, looking back. Liar. Then he disappeared into the warmth of the great hall. Harry stood in the cold, shaking. Because Snape was right. Some part of him did want to follow Thorn. Not because Harry trusted him. Because the wolf did. The wolf wanted to see what Thorn was planning. The wolf wanted to hunt. Harry clenched his fists and forced himself to breathe. Harry, Hogwarts, night. Slowly, he turned and walked back inside. The Yule Ball ended with laughter and music and the kind of memories teenagers usually carried. Harry carried something else. He carried the knowledge that there were people in Hogwarts who wanted him to fail on purpose. He carried the knowledge that fear could turn a dance into a battlefield. And as he walked back to the Gryffindor Tower with Ron and Hermione, he realized something else too. The wolf inside him didn't just respond to danger. It responded to loneliness. And Hogwarts had never felt so full of people, yet so empty of safety. Harry knew the second task was going to be cold. He didn't realize it was going to be silent. In the weeks after the Yule Ball, the castle felt louder than ever. Whispers, laughter that stopped too fast, footsteps that paused when he rounded a corner. Even the portraits seemed to stare longer. But down by the lake, in the gray dawn light of February, everything went still. No cheering yet, no music, no worms. Just ice-edged wind, dark water, and a line of champions standing on the shore like offerings. Harry's breath fogged in front of his face. His dress robes felt like a joke in this weather. Heavy, damp, too thin. He flexed his fingers inside his sleeves and tried to ignore the way the cold made his nails ache. Not pain, a pressure. Like the cold was tapping the glass of his skin, asking politely if the wolf wanted to come out and play. Harry, Hogwarts, morning. He'd changed the last word on purpose. Night made him think of moonlight. Morning made him think of control. He repeated it in his head until his heartbeat slowed. The judges stood nearby, bundled and severe, while the crowd filled the stand along the shore and climbed the slopes like bright, noisy birds. Harry tried not to look at them. He tried not to smell them. But he did anyway. Hot breath, wool, butterbeer, excitement, and the sour edge of fear, thin but present, like a stain that wouldn't wash out. Some people were afraid of the lake. Some were afraid of him. He kept his eyes forward. A whistle shrieked. And all at once, the crowd began to roar. The roar didn't reach Harry properly. It hit him like a wall, then slid off him like water. Because the lake was calling more loudly. Not with a voice. With instinct. Water meant unknown. Unknown meant threat. Threat meant. Harry clenched his jaw hard enough to make his teeth ache. He could do this. He had a plan. He had practiced. He had. Potter. A voice hissed beside him. Harry didn't turn. He didn't need to. He knew that tone. He knew that smell, bitter potion residue, cold stone, impatience. You will drown if you panic, the professor said flatly. Harry's lips barely moved. Thank you. Not a comfort, the voice snapped. A fact. Harry swallowed. I'm not panicking. A pause. Then, quieter, good. Harry's fingers flexed again, reaching for the small pouch hidden in his robe. He couldn't feel it through the layers, but he knew it was there, tied tightly, secure. Inside were two things that mattered more than pride. A small vial of wolfsbane, for if he felt the warning signs. The anchor phrase, written on parchment in Hermione's careful handwriting, folded and pressed flat like a charm. Harry didn't know if words could be a charm, but he knew they could be a rope. The whistle blew again. Harry stepped forward and stared at the black water. He could smell it, deep and old, full of weeds and mud and something living beneath the surface. He swallowed hard, then dove. The shock stole his breath. Cold slammed into his skin like a curse, and for half a second his body didn't understand what was happening. It wanted to fight the water. It wanted to escape. The wolf inside him surged, furious, because drowning was the kind of helpless death it hated. Harry forced himself to go still. Harry, Hogwarts. Morning. He pushed downward, deeper, as icy water swallowed the sound of the crowd above. Silence wrapped around him. Not peaceful silence. Dead silence. His ears strained automatically, searching for threats. He found nothing. And that was the problem. Underwater, his advantages became useless. He couldn't smell properly. Everything was water. Everything was moving. Every scent blurred into a cold, heavy sameness. He couldn't hear properly either, not the way he was used to. Sound traveled wrong down here, stretching, warping, turning the world into a muffled dream. Panic rose in his chest like a living thing. His lungs burned. He reached for the gillyweed. He stuffed it into his mouth. The weed tasted like swamp and bitterness, and for a moment he was sure he'd done it wrong. Then his throat seized. Harry's eyes widened. Something sharp tore through his neck like invisible claws. He kicked harder, reflexive, but the water felt thicker now, dragging at him. His ribs ached. His lungs screamed. And then, his body changed. It wasn't dramatic like the dragon task, not all at once. It was a slow, awful transformation like a lock turning in his bones. Gills opened along his neck, burning cold like fresh cuts. His hands webbed slightly, fingers stretching, skin tightening. He sucked in water by accident. And instead of choking, his new gills pulled oxygen out of it like the lake itself had decided to feed him. Relief hit him so hard his eyes stung. He forced himself to breathe, through gills, through water, until the panic eased into something manageable. Harry, Hogwarts, morning. He repeated it again and again until his mind held steady. Then he started swimming. The lake floor emerged gradually, dim and shadowed. Weed forests swayed like hair. Rocks jutted up like broken teeth. Strange fish darted away from him, flashing pale bellies. Harry swam deeper, following the vague direction of the merpeople village Hermione had described. He'd practiced navigation spells. He'd practiced counting strokes. He'd practiced staying calm. And still, the deeper he went, the more his instincts tightened. Because the water wasn't empty. It was full of life that didn't belong to him. Something brushed past his leg. Harry whipped around, wound up. Nothing there. Just weeds. Just shadows. Just the lake playing tricks. Harry forced himself not to chase phantom threats. The wolf would have chased. The wolf would have turned this into a hunt. Harry didn't. He swam on. He saw the first sign of the village like a warning, a spear embedded in stone. Then another. Then shapes in the distance, dark huts made of kelp and stone, faintly lit by something greenish and strange. Merpeople moved between them, silhouettes with long hair and sharp tails, carrying tridents like they expected trouble. Harry's stomach tightened. He wanted to approach carefully, slowly, show he wasn't a threat. But the moment he drifted closer, the merpeople reacted. Tridents lifted. Bodies angled toward him. He felt the pressure of their attention like he'd felt the dragon's focus, predator to potential predator. One of them swam forward, closer, a leader, perhaps, with a necklace of bones and a scar across their face. Their mouth opened, and the sound that came out was not human. It wasn't even properly a voice. It was a low, haunting song, vibrating through the water, making Harry's bones hum. Harry froze. He couldn't understand the words, but he understood the meaning. Stop. Harry lifted his hands slowly to show he wasn't attacking. Then he pointed to the village. And then, carefully, he pointed to himself. He tried to mime. I'm here for the hostage, the thing you took. I'm not here to fight you. The merperson stared at him. Then their eyes flicked to Harry's throat, to the gills, to the edges of his fingers slightly webbed. And Harry saw something change in their expression. Not fear, recognition, like they'd seen hybrid magic before. The merperson's mouth opened again, that deep underwater song vibrating through the water. This time, they gestured, sharp, commanding, toward the center of the village. Harry followed. He found them hanging in the middle of the village like offerings to the lake. For figures, bound by thick ropes of kelp, suspended above the lake floor. Hair drifting like smoke. Robes floating like ghosts. Harry's heart slammed in his chest. Even underwater, he knew them immediately. Ron, Hermione, and two others, one from each school. They were unconscious, limp, and impossibly still. Harry surged forward, and the merpeople's tridents snapped up instantly, blocking his path. The leader pointed at the hostages, then at a large stone nearby where something was carved in flowing marks. Harry swam closer and stared. The carvings weren't English, but Hermione's voice echoed in his head from weeks ago. They'll give you a clue, something like, "Come seek us where our voices sound. We cannot sing above the ground. It'll be about taking what you'll sorely miss." Harry swallowed water through gills and forced himself to think. Take what you'll sorely miss. They wanted one hostage each. One, not all. And the task was to rescue your person. Harry looked at Ron and Hermione, helplessness twisting in his ribs. The wolf inside him snarled. It didn't care about rules. It cared about pack. It cared about protect. Harry's hands clenched. His nails tingled. He felt it, the warning sign, the faint tightening in his jaw, the pressure under his skin. He fought it. Harry, Hogwarts, morning. He forced his mind to stay human. But then he saw Hermione's face, pale and drifting, eyes closed. And he saw Ron's hand, loose and lifeless. And something in him broke loose anyway. Not full shift. Not override. Just the instinct ripping past his careful control like it didn't respect plans. Harry moved. Fussed. He darted toward Hermione first, wand out, slicing at the kelp rope with a severing charm. The rope snapped. Hermione drifted downward. Harry caught her, his arms wrapped around her, automatically protective. He started to swim up. A trident slammed into the water in front of him, blocking his path. The merpeople were not letting him take her yet. Harry's chest tightened. He pointed, urgent, between Hermione and Ron. He tried to mime, "I'm taking her now. I will come back for him. I swear." The mare leader stared, then gestured sharply toward Ron, and then toward Hermione, and then crossed their trident in a clear symbol. Choose one. Harry froze. His stomach lurched. The wolf inside him surged again, furious, offended, panicked. Choose one. His mind flashed with images, Ron not waking. Hermione drifting into darkness, losing one because of a rule. Anger rose white-hot. His claws prickled beneath his skin. He tried to breathe. Harry, Hogwarts, morning. But the anchor felt thin now, stretched taut. Because this wasn't just fear. This was helplessness. The leader's trident nudged Hermione away from him, gently, almost polite, but firm. Harry's hands clenched, and the moment his fingers tightened, the water around them seemed to sharpen. His vision narrowed. He could feel his teeth against his lips. The wolf didn't want to negotiate. It wanted to take. Harry's wand trembled as magic surged. His shield charm formed instinctively, thick and heavy. But underwater, it didn't behave properly. It bulged, warped, pushed against the water like a bubble straining to hold shape. The merpeople tensed. Tridents lifted. A fight would be suicide. Harry knew it. But the wolf didn't care. Then, through the blur of instinct, Harry noticed something. A faint glint near the ropes. Not the kelp. Not the stone. A tiny, pale shimmer attached to one of the bindings near Ron. Harry swam closer, heart pounding. It wasn't part of the rope. It was something woven in. a thin thread that caught the light strangely. Harry reached out slowly. The moment his fingers brushed it, pain lanced up his hand. Not normal pain, a sharp, burning sting that made his muscles spasm. Harry jerked back, eyes wide. Silver. Not a blade. Not a coin. A thread. Tiny. Enough to hurt. Enough to aggravate the wolf in his blood. Someone had put silver in the bindings. Not the mere people. Not as part of the task. It was sabotage. A trigger. Harry's breath hitched. The wolf inside him snarled so violently his vision shook. His nails lengthened under his skin. His jaw clenched, bone shifting slightly. The mere people saw the change and reacted instantly. Tridents raised, bodies moving to surround him like sharks. Harry's mind screamed, "Not here. Not now." He forced the anchor through clenched teeth. Harry, Hogwarts, morning. Again, again, again. The wolf fought him, furious at the silver, furious at the helplessness, furious at being cornered. Harry's eyes burned. He stared at Ron's bound form and felt something raw crack open in his chest. He couldn't leave him. He couldn't leave either of them. He couldn't. Harry did the only thing he could do. He made a choice that wasn't a choice. He pointed at Hermione, then at the Mare Leader. Then he pointed at Ron. And then, slowly, he pressed his fist to his own chest, to his heart. A promise. A vow. I'm taking both. The Mare Leader stared at him for a long time. Then, with a motion that felt like reluctant respect, they gestured to one of the Mare people. The other merpersons swam forward, trident lowered, and with careful precision, they used the blade edge to slice the rope, above the silver thread, avoiding it. Ron drifted free. Harry's heart slammed. He grabbed Ron with one arm and Hermione with the other, pulling both close, bodies straining under their weight. He kicked upward hard. The Mare people didn't stop him. They watched him go. Swimming up with two unconscious bodies was like dragging stone through a storm. Harry's muscles burned. His gills flared painfully. His arms shook. The wolf inside him surged, not to attack, but to endure, to carry, to protect. It made him stronger. It also made him clumsier. Harry's wand slipped from his grip twice. He nearly lost it to the weeds. He had to snatch it back with fingers that wanted to become claws. Above him, the surface was a pale circle of light. He pushed toward it with everything he had. His lungs didn't need air, but his mind did. His mind needed daylight, noise, something human. He broke the surface in a violent splash, dragging Ron and Hermione with him. Sound exploded back into existence. The crowd's roar hit him like thunder. Cold air burned his throat as gills tried to close and lungs remembered what breathing was. Harry coughed, choking, hauling Ron and Hermione toward the shore. Hands reached out, officials, teachers, healers, grabbing Ron and Hermione, pulling them away. Harry staggered after them, trying to keep up, trying not to collapse. And then he saw it. On the shore, near the officials, Thorn stood among the crowd like he belonged there. He shouldn't have been there. Not that close. Not watching like that. Thorn's eyes met Harry's. And Thorn smiled. Small. Satisfied. Harry's blood went ice hot. Because now Harry understood. The sabotage wasn't meant to kill Ron. It was meant to make Harry lose control in front of everyone again. It was meant to force the wolf out under the excuse of panic and danger. Harry's hands trembled. His nails tingled. The wolf inside him lunged toward the idea of that smile disappearing. Harry forced his breath in. Harry, Hogwarts, morning. He turned away before he did something unforgivable. Behind him, the crowd cheered, some genuinely, some uncertainly, because Harry had brought two hostages back. But the cheering didn't feel like victory. It felt like a verdict being delayed. because Harry knew what was coming next. They'd call him reckless. They'd call him dangerous. They'd say he broke the rules. And the Ministry would love that. As healers rushed Ron and Hermione away, Harry stood alone on the shore, dripping lake water and shaking with cold and rage. And he realized that the tournament wasn't just testing his courage. It was testing whether he could be provoked into becoming the monster they wanted. Harry expected the lake to be the hard part. He expected the cold, the silence, the weight of two bodies in his arms as he fought the water like it was trying to swallow his life and keep it. He expected pain. What he didn't expect, what hit him harder than the black depths, was what happened after he crawled onto the shore. Because the moment Ron and Hermione were dragged from his grip and rushed toward the healers, the air changed. The crowd's roar wasn't cheering anymore. It was talking. Thousands of voices twisting into one messy, hungry thing. Too many scents. Too many eyes. And beneath all of it, sharp and sour like metal on the tongue, fear. Harry stood there dripping lake water, shaking with cold, watching healers lift Ron and Hermione away like they were fragile relics. He wanted to follow. He wanted to make sure they breathed, that their eyes opened, that their hands moved. Instead, officials stepped in front of him. Not teachers. Not friends. Men in ministry blue robes, faces set with professional calm that smelled like practice distance. One of them held out a hand. "Your wand, Potter." Harry's fingers tightened around it automatically. His nails tingled. "Harry, Hogwarts. Morning." He forced his breathing slow. "Why?" "For safety," the man said, as if that word solved everything. Harry looked past him and saw Cornelius Fudge striding down from the judge's platform like a storm that had learned to wear a human face. His cheeks were pale, his mouth drawn tight, his eyes darting, always darting, to Harry's hands. The minister didn't even pretend to smile this time. "Harry," he said sharply, "what exactly do you think you were doing?" Harry's throat tightened. "Saving them." "You were instructed to save one," Fudge snapped. Harry felt heat flare in his chest, the wolf bristling at the accusation. They would have been fine," Fudge cut in, voice rising. "It is part of the task. The hostages were never in real danger." Harry's vision sharpened at the edges. Ron had silver thread in his bindings, Harry said, and he watched the smallest flicker cross Fudge's face. Surprise, annoyance, uncertainty. That wasn't part of the task. Fudge hesitated. Then his expression hardened, like he decided what story he wanted regardless of the truth. "A child's panic," Fudge said loudly, for everyone to hear. "A child's confusion. The stress is clearly affecting you, Potter." Behind Fudge, Rita Skeeter was already scribbling, her quill scratching furiously, her eyes bright as if she'd just been handed a feast. "How heroic," she called, voice ringing. "Two hostages. Such noble instincts, almost animal, wouldn't you say, Minister?" Harry's jaw clenched. The ministry man's hand stayed out. "Your wand." Harry didn't want to give it up. Not to them. Not when he could smell their fear and their satisfaction and their plans. But then a gentle, steady voice cut through like warm light. Albus Dumbledore stepped between Harry and the ministry officials without raising his voice, and somehow the air itself felt different, less sharp, less hunted. "Mr. Potter will keep his wand," Dumbledore said. Fudge's face darkened. "Albus." And Dumbledore continued calmly, "Mr. Potter will be allowed to go to the hospital wing to see his friends." Fudge's jaw tightened. "Not until I—" Dumbledore's eyes fixed on him. "Now, Cornelius." It wasn't a threat. It was a boundary. Fudge's nostrils flared, and for a second Harry thought the minister might actually try to push through him. Then Fudge forced a brutal smile that didn't touch his eyes. "Very well," he said too loudly, "but there will be follow-up." Rita's quill scratched faster, and Harry smelled something else, faint and cold. Approval. From the edge of the crowd, near the teachers, Alastair Moody stood with his magical eye whirring, watching Harry like he was measuring how close a fuse was to the flame. When their gazes met, Moody's mouth twitched. It could have been encouragement. It could have been amusement. Harry couldn't tell anymore. The hospital wing smelled like clean sheets and antiseptic potions and worried teenagers. Harry arrived with his robes still damp, hair dripping, hands shaking, not from cold now, but from everything he'd held back on the shore. Ron was awake first. He looked groggy, pale, and furious. "Harry," Ron rasped, eyes blinking hard. "I did we..." Harry's throat tightened. "You're all right." Ron's eyes focused properly, then narrowed. "Why's everyone acting like you try to drown someone?" Harry let out a short, humorless laugh. "Because I didn't follow the rules." Ron frowned. "You saved us." Harry stared at him. Ron's face went serious. "You did, and I'm not letting anyone pretend that's bad." Something tight in Harry's chest loosened just a fraction. Hermione woke later, and the moment her eyes opened, she looked at Harry like she'd been searching for him, even in sleep. "You did it," she whispered. Harry swallowed hard. "You were..." "I'm fine," Hermione said quickly, then reached for his hand. Her fingers were warm. "Steady. Harry, listen to me. That silver thread, did you touch it?" Harry's stomach twisted. "Yeah." Hermione's eyes sharpened, and it hurt. Harry nodded once. Hermione exhaled, the anger in her face turning into something colder and more focused. "That wasn't the mere people." "I know." Hermione squeezed his hand. "Then someone put it there to trigger you." Harry's nails tingled at the word trigger, and he forced his fingers to relax. Ron looked between them. "Who?" Harry's gaze drifted to the window, to the pale light outside, to the sense of eyes always watching. "Someone who wants me to lose control in public." Hermione's mouth tightened. "Then we need proof." Harry's laugh was quiet. "Good luck convincing Fudge." As if summoned by the mention, footsteps approached the hospital wing, sharp, purposeful, too official. A curtain rustled, and then the minister entered. Fudge didn't look at Ron or Hermione first. He looked at Harry, as if Harry was the only problem in the room. "Harry," Fudge said briskly, "we need to discuss your condition." Ron sat up too fast. "Is what?" Hermione's eyes flashed. "Minister, this is the hospital wing." Fudge's smile was thin. "And I am here for the safety of every student in this castle." Harry's throat tightened. "You mean for the safety of your reputation?" Fudge's eyes narrowed. "Careful." For a heartbeat, the wolf inside Harry rose up, hot, offended, daring. "Harry, Hogwarts. Morning." Harry forced it down. Fudge continued, pulling a folded parchment from his robes. "Given recent events, the Ministry requires a standard evaluation of Mr. Potter's magical stability." Hermione's voice was sharp. "You can't require." "Oh, I can," Fudge said smoothly. "International tournament. Public safety. Liability." Ron's hands clenched into fists. "He's not a bomb." Fudge's gaze flicked to Ron like Ron was a fly. "Mr. Weasley, your feelings are noted and irrelevant." Harry's jaw tightened. Fudge looked at Harry again. "There will be a ministry-appointed healer and an auror present. A simple examination. Nothing invasive." Hermione's voice was tight with disgust. "That's what people say when it is invasive." Fudge's smile didn't falter. "Ms. Granger, I admire your enthusiasm, but this is not a debate." Harry stared at the parchment. It wasn't chains, but it was a collar. He could feel it. Dumbledore's voice came from the doorway, calm and firm. "You will not interrogate my student in the hospital wing." Fudge turned sharply. "Albus." Dumbledore stepped inside, eyes quiet but unyielding. "If you require an evaluation, it will be done with Hogwarts staff present, under Hogwarts wards, on Hogwarts terms." Fudge's face tightened. "You're obstructing a ministry safety measure." Dumbledore's smile was faint but there was no warmth in it. I am preventing an abuse of power. Rita Skeeter appeared behind Fudge like she'd been waiting in the corridor just to pounce. How fascinating, she purred. The headmaster protecting his champion from a harmless examination. Was Hogwarts hiding? Hermione's fingers tightened around Harry's hand. Harry could smell Rita's glee. It made his stomach turn. Dumbledore didn't even look at Rita. Miss Skeeter. Rita fluttered her lashes. Headmaster. Dumbledore's voice stayed mild. If you have snuck into my school again under false pretenses, I assure you the consequences will be educational. Rita's smile twitched, just a fraction, then settled again. The public has a right to know, Headmaster. Dumbledore's eyes finally met hers. The public, he said softly, does not have a right to hunt children. The word hunt made Harry's skin prickle. The wolf inside him shifted, listening. Fudge cleared his throat. We will proceed with the evaluation tomorrow. Dumbledore's voice didn't change. No. Fudge's face flushed. Albus. Dumbledore stepped closer, and the room seemed to tighten around him. Cornelius, if you attempt to lay hands on Mr. Potter without cause or due process, I will personally inform the International Confederation of Wizards that the British Ministry has begun treating minors as threats instead of citizens. Fudge stared. Harry's heart pounded. He'd never heard Dumbledore sound like that. Fudge's smile returned, strained. Very well. Hogwarts staff present. Hogwarts wards. Tomorrow evening. Dumbledore held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded once. Tomorrow evening. Fudge turned sharply and swept out, robes snapping like wings. Rita followed with a disappointed pout, already whispering to her quill. When they were gone, the hospital wing felt warmer again. Hermione let out a slow breath. Ron looked like he wanted to punch something. Harry stared at Dumbledore. They're going to keep pushing. Dumbledore's gaze softened. Yes. Harry's voice was quiet. Because they're scared. Dumbledore nodded. And because fear is useful to some people. Harry swallowed. What do I do? Dumbledore's eyes held his. You survive. You learn control. And you do not give them the moment they are trying to force out of you. Harry's nails tingled at that, like his body recognized the truth in it. Hermione's voice cut in, fierce. We'll find evidence. About the silver thread. Ron nodded hard. Yeah, whoever did it. Dumbledore's voice was gentle but heavy. Be careful. Ron frowned. Why? Dumbledore's gaze drifted to the window, as if he could see the entire castle's secrets through stone. Because the person who puts silver in a child's bindings is not playing schoolyard games. Harry's stomach dropped, because that meant it was bigger than Thorn, bigger than whispers, bigger than teenage cruelty. And Harry had a sudden, cold certainty that someone was steering this, someone who wanted him cornered, provoked, and exposed. That night, Harry couldn't sleep. He lay under the covers listening to the dormitory breathe, Neville's soft snore, Seamus shifting, Ron's steady rhythm across the room. And underneath those normal sounds, Harry heard the castle's deeper pulse. He could smell the rain coming. He could smell the ink on old parchment downstairs. He could smell, faint as a thread, the trace of silver he'd touched underwater, still clinging to his memory like a burn. Harry, Hogwarts, night. He changed it back, because now it was night, and night meant the moon, and the moon meant the wolf. Harry forced his breath slow. Then he heard it, a soft scrape of parchment on wood, someone sliding something under the dormitory door. Harry sat up instantly. His body moved before his mind. He crossed the room with silent steps, grabbed the parchment, and unfolded it with trembling fingers. The handwriting was different from Thorn's, older, cleaner, almost official. Ministry Notice Mandatory Evaluation, Mr. Harry Potter due to creature-associated instability or presence requiring compliance will be interpreted as threat behavior. Harry stared at the words until his vision blurred. Creature-associated. Threat behavior. It wasn't just an evaluation. It was a trap written in polite ink. His nails prickled, trying to lengthen. His jaw tightened. The wolf inside him surged up, furious. They're cornering you, they're naming you, they're hunting you. Harry clenched the notice until it crumpled. Then he forced himself to breathe. Harry, Hogwarts, night, again, again. Because if he snapped, if he gave them what they wanted, then the chains wouldn't be paper anymore. They'd be real. And the next task wasn't even here yet. By the time the evaluation day arrived, Harry had stopped pretending it was about safety. Safety didn't come on official parchment with words like threat behavior stamped across it. Safety didn't bring an aura to a school like Hogwarts was a prison. Safety didn't smell like fear wrapped in ink. Harry sat at the edge of the hospital wing bed and stared at his hands. They were steady. They looked normal. But the feeling under his skin, tight, restless, waiting, wasn't. Hermione paced like she was trying to grind a hole in the floor. Ron sat near the window, quiet, jaw clenched so hard it looked like it hurt. They can't do this, Hermione said for the 10th time, voice sharp with fury. Not like this. Not with language like that. Harry didn't answer. He could smell Hermione's anger. Hot, clean, fierce like sparks off a flint. He could smell Ron's fear too, heavier than yesterday, because it wasn't fear of the Ministry. It was fear of what the Ministry could make Harry do. Harry flexed his fingers once, then forced them still. Harry, Hogwarts, evening. He'd changed the word again. Evening felt safer than night. Night meant the moon. Evening meant light was still holding on. Stop staring at your hands, Ron muttered, like it physically pained him to watch. Harry looked up. Ron's eyes were steady now. No flinching, no hesitation, just a kind of stubborn loyalty that made Harry's throat tighten. I'm not staring, Harry lied. Ron snorted. You're practically having a conversation with them. Hermione stopped pacing and leaned close to Harry, lowering her voice. Listen, whatever happens in that room, don't let them isolate you. Keep Dumbledore in there. Keep Lupin in there. Keep. Her eyes flicked briefly, disgust tightening her mouth. Snape if you have to. Harry's mouth twitched, humorless. That's comforting. It's practical, Hermione snapped. Harry nodded once. Practical was all they had left. A curtain rustled. A nurse stepped in. Mr. Potter, she said carefully, like his name might bite. They're ready. Harry stood. His legs felt too light, like adrenaline had already started pumping even though nothing had happened yet. Ron stood too. We're coming. The nurse hesitated. Only authorized personnel. Hermione stepped forward, eyes flint hard. We're his witnesses. The nurse opened her mouth, then seemed to think better of it, and simply waved them toward the door. Harry didn't thank her. He didn't trust kindness that came with fear on it. The evaluation room wasn't the hospital wing. It was a classroom that had been stripped down until it looked like it had never held a lesson in its life. Desks were shoved against the walls. The windows were covered. The air smelled wrong, clean, but too clean like someone had scrubbed the room with chemicals meant for a place that had blood on the floor. A circle had been drawn on the stone in pale dust. Not chalk. Harry's skin prickled instantly. Cold iron and bitter herbs. Wards. Control wards. His jaw tightened. At the far end of the room stood the people who had decided they had the right to measure him. A ministry healer he didn't recognize, tall, sharp-eyed, wearing spotless robes and a face that tried very hard to be neutral, an aura with a hand resting casually on their wand, and, standing just behind them with his hat pinched tight between his fingers, the minister. Harry's stomach turned, and beside the minister, gleaming, delighted, was a floating quill. Rita Skeeter, of course. Harry's fingers twitched. His nails tingled. Harry, Hogwarts, evening. Dumbledore stood near the circle, calm as stone, hands folded as if this was a normal staff meeting. Lupin was there too, posture steady, eyes focused on Harry like he was already reading his breathing. Snape leaned against the wall with the expression of someone attending an event they despised but refused to miss. And Moody stood in the back, watching quietly, his magical eye whirring, watching the room, the ward's Harry. Harry, try not to look at him. He failed. That I felt like a hook. The minister cleared his throat. Mr. Potter, this is a standard stability evaluation given the unusual circumstances surrounding your performance in the first and second tasks. Harry stared at him. Unusual. Fudge's mouth tightened. Your physical alterations. Hermione's breath hitched with anger. Ron shifted like he wanted a lunge. Dumbledore spoke before anyone exploded. Proceed, then, quickly, and with respect. The ministry healer stepped forward, voice clipped and professional. Harry Potter, please stand within the circle. Harry's body reacted before his mind could stop it. Don't step into the circle. Don't let them box you in. Don't. Lupin's voice cut in, low and steady. Anchor. Harry forced his breath in. Harry, Hogwarts. Evening. He stepped into the circle. The moment his foot crossed the line, the wards hummed. Not loudly, not visibly, but Harry felt it in his teeth. His skin tightened like it was being measured. The healer lifted their wand. This will not hurt if you remain calm. Harry's mouth went dry. That was exactly the sort of sentence people said right before it hurt. The aura shifted, subtle, but Harry heard the faint click of their grip tightening on their wand. Harry could smell their readiness. Not to protect him, to stop him. The healer began with simple questions: his name, his age, whether he had been bitten, whether he had consumed potions. Harry answered with his jaw clenched. When the healer asked about wolfsbane, Snape's lip curled faintly, like the word itself was an insult he'd chosen anyway. The questions moved from factual to invasive. Do you experience urges to harm others? Do you experience cravings? Do you experience a loss of control under stress? Harry's nails tingled. Ron's voice was sharp. He's a 14-year-old in a death tournament. Everyone loses control under stress. The Auror's gaze snapped to Ron. Silence. Hermione stepped forward. You're not allowed to intimidate witnesses. Fudge's smile was thin. They're not witnesses. They're children. Harry's throat tightened. Children. But Harry was the one in the circle, wasn't he? Harry was the one being examined like a dangerous object. The healer raised a hand. Enough. We proceed to magical diagnostics. They reached into a case and drew out a thin instrument, metallic pale, gleaming. Harry's skin flared with warning. Not silver, no, not pure, but close enough that his blood recognized it as poison. His gills itched like they wanted to open again. His jaw tightened so hard it ached. The wolf inside him rose up, furious. Harry swallowed hard. Harry, Hogwarts, evening. That, Harry said, voice rough, is silver. The healer's expression didn't change. It contains a trace compound used to measure regenerative response. It's silver, Harry repeated. Fudge's voice cut in, impatient. If he's truly stable, it shouldn't matter. The words hit like a slap. If he's truly stable, it shouldn't matter. Like pain was a test of character. Like suffering was proof. Harry's vision sharpened at the edges. Lupin moved half a step closer to the circle, voice calm but tight. You will not use silver on a minor. The healer's eyes flicked to Fudge. Fudge nodded sharply. The instrument lifted toward Harry's wrist. Harry's body tensed. Instinct screamed, move. The wolf surged. Break the hand that hurts you. Harry forced air into his lungs. Harry, Hogwarts, evening. The instrument touched his skin. Pain exploded. Not like a burn, not like a cut. Like something inside him had been yanked raw and exposed to air. Harry's breath tore out of him in a sound that wasn't a scream, but wasn't far from one. His fingers twitched. His nails jumped longer. Hermione made a strangled sound. Ron swore loudly. The Auror stepped forward instantly, wand raised. Harry's mind flashed white. The wolf surged to the surface with one simple thought. They're hurting you. Hurt them back. Harry's wand arm jerked up without permission. A shield charm burst from him, thick, heavy, violent, slamming into the ward's circle like a wave. The wards flared in response, tightening, pushing back. The circle became a cage. Harry's lungs heaved. His nails lengthened more. He could feel the shape of his teeth change, slightly, pressure along his jaw. The healer stepped back, eyes sharp, voice clipped. See? Instability. Rita's cool scratched like mad. Fascinating, truly fascinating. Stop, Dumbledore said quietly. The word wasn't loud, but the entire room froze like it had been struck by ice. The healer hesitated. The Auror hesitated. Even Fudge's mouth snapped shut. Harry stood, shaking in the circle, breathing hard, fighting the wave of instinct that wanted to tear through every barrier in the room. Lupin's voice came again, steady as a hand on the back of his neck. Anchor. Harry forced the words through clenched teeth. Harry. Hogwarts. Evening. Again. Again. The pressure in his jaw eased by a fraction. His nails shortened slightly. The wolf didn't vanish, but it stopped slamming itself against his ribs. Dumbledore stepped closer to the circle and looked at the healer. You will not touch him again with silver, he said. The healer's jaw tightened. Headmaster, the evaluation requires. No, Dumbledore said gently. It does not. Not in my school. Fudge's voice rose. Albus, this is precisely what I meant. He's reacting violently. He is reacting to pain, Lupin said, voice suddenly sharp. Pain you chose to inflict. Fudge's face reddened. It's standard. It is cruel, Lupin snapped. Silence hit the room. Harry stared at Lupin, startled by the anger in him. Snape's voice cut in, smooth as a blade. And idiotic. Everyone looked at Snape. Snape's eyes were cold on the healer. Trace compound, he said with contempt. If you're attempting to measure regenerative response, you can do so with non-silver catalysts. Unless, of course, the point wasn't measurement. The room went very still. Harry's breath caught, because Snape had said what Harry had been afraid to think. Unless the point wasn't measurement. The healer's expression remained neutral, but Harry's senses caught something underneath it. Not fear. Annoyance. Like their plan had been interrupted. Dumbledore's gaze sharpened. Finish your evaluation without provocation, he said softly, or you will leave. Fudge opened his mouth to argue. Then, behind everyone, Moody's voice rumbled, casual and rough. Kids being tested like a cornered animal, he said, and the words landed heavy. Cornered animals bite. Harry's stomach twisted at the word bite. The wolf inside him liked it. That frightened Harry more than the minister. Moody continued, sounding almost amused. You want to see control? Put him under stress that's real, then give him a path to succeed. Otherwise, you're just fishing for a headline. Rita's quill scratched faster. Fudge glared. This is not a spectacle. Rita boomed. Oh, but it is, minister. Dumbledore's voice cut through again. Enough. Proceed properly. The healer swallowed their irritation and moved to a different kind of test. Wand diagnostics, aura readings, questions about whether Harry's mind stayed intact during shifts. Those didn't hurt. They didn't trigger the wolf. And Harry answered them with a shaking kind of control that felt like holding a door shut against a storm. Finally, after what felt like hours, the healer stepped back. Findings, they said, voice stiff. Subject displays heightened sensory response and instinct-driven magical surges under provocation. Cognitive function remains intact. Full curse markers are inconclusive. Fudge's mouth tightened. Inconclusive. The healer nodded. He is not a standard werewolf case. Rita made a disappointed little sound. Fudge's eyes narrowed on Harry, so he could still become a danger. Harry's nails pricked, but he forced them still. Dumbledore's gaze was calm. "He is already in danger," he said, "and you are part of it." Fudge's face flushed. "Albus." Dumbledore stepped closer, voice still gentle. "The evaluation is over." The wards around the circle faded. Harry stepped out like he was leaving a cage. The moment he crossed the line, the tightness in his skin eased, and his body exhaled a breath it hadn't realized it was holding. Hermione grabbed his arm immediately, checking his wrist where the instrument had touched. The skin wasn't broken, but it was red, angry, like it had been kissed by fire. Hermione's eyes were bright with rage. That was deliberate. Harry's voice was hoarse. "Yeah." Ron's face was pale. "Harry, your teeth." Harry swallowed hard. His jaw still felt too tight. He didn't answer, because he didn't want to admit how close it had been. How easy it would have been to lunge. Fudge gathered his parchment, looking satisfied anyway. "We'll be in touch about future measures." Dumbledore's smile was thin. "No," he said softly. "You will not." Fudge froze. "Excuse me?" Dumbledore's eyes met his. "If you attempt another provocation under the banner of safety, I will respond publicly, and you will not enjoy the conversation that follows." For a moment, Fudge looked like he wanted to argue. Then he looked at Rita, at the teachers, at Harry's reddened wrist, at the watchful faces. And he decided to retreat with his dignity intact. Rita lingered a second longer, smiling at Harry like he was a story that would sell itself. "Such bravery," she purred, "or such savagery. We'll see what the readers prefer." Harry's breath sharpened. The wolf inside him shifted, hungry at the idea of making her stop talking forever. Harry forced the anchor again. "Harry, Hogwarts. Evening." Rita left, cool scribbling. The door shut, and the room felt like it could breathe again. Later, in the library, Hermione spread parchment and notes across a table like she was building a battlefield map. Ron stood guard, glaring at anyone who looked too interested. Harry sat with his sleeve pushed up, staring at the red mark on his wrist. Hermione pointed at it. "The compound burned you without breaking skin. That means it was enchanted, not just metallic." Harry's voice was flat. "So, it was a trigger?" Hermione nodded. "Yes." Ron's voice was tight. "Can we prove it was the same kind of silver as the thread in the lake?" Hermione's eyes lit with fierce determination. "We might, if we can find a residue signature." Harry looked up. "Ow!" Hermione reached in her bag and pulled out a small scrap of cloth. Harry's stomach dropped. "Hermione." "I know," she said quickly. "But when the healer put the instrument back in the case, she swallowed. I touched the latch. There was a smear. Barely anything. But it's something." Ron let out a shaky breath. "You're mental." Hermione's mouth twitched. "Yes." Harry stared at the cloth, something like gratitude tightening his throat. "That could get you in trouble." Hermione's eyes were hard. "Let them try." Harry's nails tingled at the thought of anyone threatening her. He forced his hands still. Hermione bent closer, voice lowering. "Harry, whoever did this wants you to snap in public. They want the ministry to have an excuse to remove you, to control you." Harry's voice was quiet. "Or to use me." Hermione's eyes narrowed. "Yes." Ron's face tightened. "Thorn." Harry's jaw clenched. "Thorn is part of it, but he's not the whole thing." Hermione nodded slowly. "Agreed." Harry stared down at the red mark again, remembering the way pain had ripped through him and how the wolf had surged forward like it had been waiting for permission. He whispered, "They're going to try again." Hermione's voice was steady. "Then we don't let them." Ron leaned in, quieter now. "Third task, the maze. That's going to be stress on purpose." Harry's stomach tightened. The maze. Darkness. Fear. Unknown threats. No crowd to witness if he lost control. A perfect place to turn him into exactly what they wanted. Harry's breath came out slow. "Harry, Hogwarts. Night." He didn't correct himself this time, because deep down, he knew the truth. The trap wasn't just in silver. It was in isolation, and the maze was going to be the loneliest place Hogwarts had ever built. The night of the third task tasted like thunder. Not because the sky was stormy, it wasn't. It was clear, and the stars were sharp enough to look like they could cut. But Harry could smell it anyway. Damp earth, crushed grass, the electric bite of magic hanging over the Quidditch pitch where the maze had been grown. It wasn't just a hedge maze. It was a living spell, and it was waiting. Harry stood in the champion's tent while officials moved around him, checking rules, reminding everyone about sparks for emergencies, pretending this was a game. The tent smelled like leather, ink, sweat, and nerves. Not just Harry's nerves. Everyone's. Even the adults. Across from Harry, Cedric Diggory rolled his shoulders like he was trying to shake tension out of his bones. He looked calm, but his breathing was a fraction too measured, controlled on purpose. Next to him, Victor Crumb sat with his head down, jaw clenched, eyes shadowed. He smelled wrong. Not fear exactly, more like something stale, like his emotions had been pressed flat. And Fleur Delacour stood near the flap of the tent, chin high, pale and perfect and furious at the world for making her pretend she wasn't afraid. Harry tried to focus on his own breathing. Harry, Hogwarts, night. He'd stopped changing the last word. He'd stopped trying to trick his body with language. Night was what it was. And the moon, fat and bright these last few evenings, was what it was. Hermione had pressed a small scrap of parchment into his palm before he left the castle. Not notes, not research, just 3 words in her tidy handwriting. Name, place, time. Ron had said nothing, just clapped him once on the shoulder, hard enough to hurt, like he was trying to physically anchor Harry to the world. Lupin had done something quieter. He'd leaned in, close enough that only Harry could hear. Don't try to be perfect, Lupin had whispered. Try to be present. And Snape had said only one thing in that flat, brutal voice, as if the words disgusted him. Do not bleed where they want you to. Harry didn't know which of those pieces of advice would save him. He only knew the maze would try to take all of them away. A voice boomed outside the tent. Ludo Bagman, bright and thrilled, announcing that the champions would enter one by one. Harry's stomach tightened. The wolf inside him stirred, excited and angry at the same time, like it loved the idea of being hunted as long as it got to hunt back. The tent flap opened. Cedric was called first. He stepped out into the roar of the crowd. Harry heard it even through canvas, the cheers, the chanting, the wild pulse of thousands of people wanting a story. Then Fleur. Then Crumb. And finally, Harry Potter. The roar hit like a wave. Harry stepped out. The pitch had been transformed. Towering hedges formed walls taller than a house, their leaves dark and glossy, their branches braided in a thickness so dense it didn't look natural. The maze smelled like sap and earth and something deeper, old magic like a forest that had learned spells. In the stands, faces blurred into a single mass of watching eyes. Harry forced himself not to search for Hermione and Ron. If he saw them, if he smelled their fear, it would hook into him too hard. He walked toward the entrance assigned to him, wand in hand. At the edge of the maze, officials stood ready, judges, teachers, ministry observers. Harry didn't look at the minister. He didn't need to. He could smell him, stale panic masked with expensive cologne. He could smell the satisfaction, too, faint and sickly, from someone who wanted an incident more than a victory. The whistle blew. Harry stepped inside, and the hedge swallowed the world. The first thing that vanished was the crowd. The sound cut off like someone had slammed a door. In its place came a softer quiet, whined through leaves, Harry's own breath, the faint rustle of something moving far away. Not footsteps. Not human. Harry's skin prickled. He raised his wand. Lumos. Light bloomed at the tip. It didn't feel bright enough. The maze drank it. Harry took a careful step forward. The air felt different in here, thicker, warmer, like the hedge walls held heat and held secrets. Harry's senses stretched out instinctively, searching for danger, searching for paths. And that was when he realized the problem. There were too many smells. Fear was everywhere. Not just his. Fear trapped in leaves like memory. Fear left behind by creatures that had been placed here and had waited a long time. Fear from the other champions, drifting through the maze in thin trails like smoke. The wolf inside Harry perked up, alert, hungry, excited. Harry swallowed hard. Harry, Hogwarts, night. He moved. At the first fork, he paused and listened. He could hear something far away like breathing. Not human breathing. Something wet and patient. Harry turned left. The breathing faded. The maze shifted behind him. Not visibly. Nothing dramatic like branches snapping into place. But the air changed subtly, and Harry knew, with that sick certainty his instincts provided, that the maze was alive enough to rearrange itself when it wanted. Of course, Harry muttered, voice rough. He forced his breathing slower. He couldn't outsmart a living spell by panicking. He kept moving. The first attack didn't come with sound. It came with cold. A sudden drop in temperature that made Harry's skin tighten. His breath fogged. His fingers went numb. And then the world filled with a smell that didn't belong in summer. Gravesoid. Damp stone. A coffin's closed air. Harry's stomach turned. His heart slammed. His scar prickled, not burning but aware. A shadow detached from a hedge. A Domino-like shape, wrong and tall, drifting without feet, hooded and hungry. Harry's chest seized. The wolf surged forward, furious at the helplessness the cold brought. Harry's grip tightened on his wand. Expecto, he began, and the spell caught in his throat. Because the cold didn't just steal warmth. It stole the part of him that could reach for happy memories without flinching. The wolf inside him didn't have happy memories. It had survival. The shadow glided closer. Harry's lungs tightened. His nails tingled, wanting to lengthen, wanting to turn fear into something it could bite. Anchor, Lupin's voice echoed in his mind. Name, place, time, Hermione's handwriting whispered. Harry forced his breath in. Harry, he said under his breath. Hogwarts, night. The words steadied his mind just enough to give him space. Not happiness. Space. Harry snapped his wand up. Lumos Maxima. Light exploded outward. Not a Patronus, not the warm silver animal he'd once managed, but a brutal burst of brightness, harsh and blinding like a flare. The shadow recoiled, shrinking back into the hedge as if the leaves themselves had swallowed it. Harry staggered, breathing hard. His hands shook. His nails had lengthened slightly, dark tips visible in the wand light. He stared at them for half a second, then forced his fingers to relax. Not like that, he whispered to himself. Not like that. He moved on. He didn't find Cedric. He didn't find Fleur. But he found Crumb. He smelled him first. Not fear. Not sweat. Something hollow. Like a person walking with a spell wrapped around their mind. Harry rounded a corner and saw him. Crumb standing still in a small clearing, wand raised at something on the ground. A human figure lay there, curled, moaning. It took Harry a heartbeat to recognize the hair, the robes. Fleur. Her face was pale, eyes squeezed shut, one hand pressed to her side, as if something had clawed her. Crumb's wand trembled. He lifted it as if to strike again. Harry's stomach dropped. Crumb! Harry shouted. Crumb turned. His eyes were wrong. Not blank, not vacant. Focused in a way that didn't belong to him, like he was watching through someone else's gaze. Harry's heartbeat slammed. Imperious. Harry didn't have proof. He didn't need it. Crumb's lips tightened, and he moved toward Harry with his wand aimed directly at Harry's chest. The wolf inside Harry surged, fight. Harry forced himself not to charge. Charging was what the wolf wanted. Charging would make him lose wand work. Harry held his ground. Stupefied, Crumb barked, voice harsh. Harry's body reacted too fast. He twisted aside, the red bolt grazing his sleeve. His nails scraped the wand handle. He could smell Crumb's magic like smoke, foreign and forced. Harry raised his wand. Incarcerous. Ropes shot out, but Crumb slashed through them with a quick severing curse, moving like a machine. Harry's jaw tightened. The maze's fierce scent was thick now, making everything feel more urgent, more hunted. Fleur groaned softly on the ground. Harry's instinct screamed at him to protect. Pack, protect, pack. Crumb fired again. Harry threw up a shield. Protego. The shield formed thick and heavy, stronger than it should have been, pushing the curse away with a dull boom. The force of it made Harry's arm ache. His magic felt blunt like a club. Crumb advanced, relentless. Harry's mind snapped into something colder. He couldn't outduel Crumb if Crumb wasn't fighting like a person. So Harry did something simple. Something Lupin had drilled into him. He attacked the body, not the spell. Harry angled his wand at the hedge above Crumb. Defendo. Leaves and branches snapped down like a green curtain, tangling around Crumb's arms and shoulders, yanking his wand line just enough. Harry dove forward, not lunging like the wolf wanted, but stepping in with purpose, and struck Crumb's wand hand with a sharp, controlled spell. Expelliarmus. Crumb's wand flew. The moment it left his grip, Crumb's whole body shuddered. His eyes blinked, the wrong focus breaking. He staggered like he'd woken from a dream. Harry didn't hesitate. Stupefy. Crumb dropped. Harry breathed hard, shaking. His nails had lengthened again, just slightly. He forced them down with will and breath. Then he turned to Fleur. She was conscious now, barely, eyes fluttering open. Her gaze flicked to Harry's hands. For a heartbeat, fear flashed across her scent. Then she saw his face, and the fear shifted into something else. Relief. Fury. Pride that refused to bend. Potter, she rasped, voice thick with pain. You saved me. Harry swallowed. Can you walk? Fleur grimaced. No one. Harry looked at the sky, though he couldn't see it through hedge. He could still feel time pressing. Red sparks, Harry said gently. Now. Fleur's eyes narrowed, offended at being told what to do. Then she lifted her wand with shaking fingers and fired. A burst of red shot upward, vanishing into the hedge canopy. Harry exhaled. Fleur's gaze held his. You could have left me. Harry's voice came out rough. I couldn't. Fleur stared at him for a long moment. Then, quietly, she said, They are wrong about you. Before Harry could answer, footsteps, no, not footsteps, movement, shifted in the hedge nearby. Harry's head snapped up. He smelled something familiar. Not Fleur. Not Crumb. Something steady, human, determined. Cedric. Harry moved toward the scent like it was a lifeline. He found Cedric at another fork, wand raised, breathing hard, robes torn at the hem. Cedric's eyes widened when he saw Harry. Then his gaze flicked down to Harry's hands. Harry forced his fingers to loosen, to look normal. Cedric didn't flinch. He just said, You all right? Harry exhaled slowly. Yeah, Crumb attacked. I think he was. Cursed, Cedric finished jaw tight. I saw him earlier. Something was off. Harry nodded. Fleur's out. Red sparks. Cedric's expression tightened with respect. You stopped to help. Harry didn't know what to say to that. Cedric's voice lowered. The maze is doing things. Messing with my head. Showing me stuff. Harry's stomach twisted. Yeah. Cedric looked at him, serious. Potter, Harry, if you're struggling. Harry's jaw clenched. He hated the carefulness in Cedric's tone, not because it was unkind, because it meant Cedric was aware of what Harry could become. Harry forced himself to speak anyway. I'm managing. Cedric nodded once, like that was enough. All right, then we do this smart. We? Harry echoed. Cedric's mouth twitched. 2 heads are better than 1. Harry stared at him. The wolf inside him didn't like to. The wolf liked me. But Harry, the human part, felt something warm and sharp in his chest. A teammate. A witness. Someone who wouldn't let the maze isolate him completely. Harry nodded. Okay. They moved together. Not side by side like friends on a stroll. Like 2 people walking through a battlefield, watching corners, listening for shifts in a hedge. Harry's senses became both weapon and curse. He could smell threats before Cedric saw them. He could hear the rustle of something moving behind leaves. But he also smelled fear constantly, and every time his body recognized it, the wolf bristled, eager to answer fear with dominance. Harry kept anchoring himself with breath. Harry, Hogwarts, night. Again. Again. They fought their way through dangers that came in bursts. Creatures lunging from shadows, vines that tried to drag ankles, illusions that whispered in voices that weren't real. At one point, the hedge opened into a narrow corridor that smelled faintly metallic. Harry stopped so abruptly Cedric nearly collided with him. Cedric whispered, "What?" Harry's throat tightened. "Silver." Cedric's eyes widened. "Where?" Harry pointed ahead. The corridor looked normal, just hedge walls and dirt path. But Harry could smell it. Faint. A trace. Like someone had dusted the leaves. Cedric's voice went careful. "Is it?" "It's a trigger," Harry said, voice low. Cedric's jaw tightened. "Then we don't go that way." The maze shifted behind them, leaves rustling. Harry's skin prickled. Cedric glanced over his shoulder. "It's closing." Harry's heartbeat slammed. The hedge behind them pressed inward slowly, narrowing the path they'd come from. Like the maze was hurting them. Harry's nails tingled. Cedric's voice was tense. "Harry, choose. Choose." The word hit Harry like the merpeople's trident crossing. "Choose, choose, choose." The wolf surged. Harry forced breath into his lungs. "Harry, Hogwarts, night." He stared down the corridor that smelled of silver. Then he turned his head slightly and listened. Beyond the silver path, deeper in the maze, there was another scent. Not fear, not sap. Something pulling. Old magic. Porky magic. The cup. Harry pointed. "That way." Cedric nodded immediately, trusting him without debate. They ran. The center of the maze didn't look like a victory. It looked like a trap. The hedges opened into a small clearing where the grass had been crushed flat, as if something heavy had landed there and waited. In the middle stood the Triwizard cup. It gleamed gold in the wand light, pristine and bright like it didn't belong in the dark. Harry's breath caught. His heart hammered. The wolf inside him surged forward with sudden, violent certainty. Mine. Harry's nails prickled. He could almost taste the triumph, hot and sharp like blood without injury. Cedric's voice was rough, disbelieving. "We found it." Harry stared at the cup. Every instinct screamed to grab it before it vanished, before someone else took it, before the maze swallowed it again. But another part of Harry, quiet, human, terrified, noticed something else. The air smelled wrong. Not just porky magic. Something older. Gravisoid. A hint of damp stone. The same cold scent as the shadow creature earlier. Harry's throat tightened. "This feels," Cedric began. "Wrong." Harry finished, voice low. Cedric swallowed. What do we do? Harry's nails dug into his palm. The wolf didn't care about wrong. The wolf cared about ending the hunt. But Harry remembered Snape's words. Do not bleed where they want you to. Harry looked at Cedric. Cedric looked back, steady. Not flinching, not afraid of Harry. Afraid of what this meant. Harry exhaled slowly. We do it together. Cedric's eyes widened. What? Harry's voice was tight. If something happens, at least there's a witness. Cedric hesitated. Then he nodded once. Okay. They stepped closer, slowly, like approaching an animal that might bite. The cup gleamed brighter. Harry could feel the pull of it in his bones. The wolf inside him leaned forward, almost purring. Harry forced breath into his lungs. Harry, Hogwarts, night. Cedric's hand hovered near the handle. Harry's hand hovered too. For one heartbeat, the clearing was perfectly still. Then their fingers touched the cup together, and the world vanished. The portkey didn't feel like flying. It felt like being ripped. 1 second, Harry's fingers were on cool gold, the Triwizard cup humming under his skin, Cedric's hand still there, solid beside his. And the next second, the world yanked sideways and down, and Harry's stomach tried to stay behind. Wind screamed in his ears. Darkness swallowed everything. And then, impact. Harry hit the ground hard, knees jolting, hands scraping gravel. Cold air slammed into his lungs. His wand light spun wildly, then steadied as his grip tightened. Cedric stumbled beside him, catching himself just before he fell. For a heartbeat, they stayed crouched, breathing hard, staring at nothing, because their eyes hadn't caught up with reality yet. Then Harry smelled it. Earth, wet stone, old iron, moss, decay, and something else, something that made the hair at the back of his neck rise. Gravisoid. Harry's head lifted slowly. They were in a graveyard. Crooked headstones leaned like broken teeth under a low, pale sky. The air was damp, heavy with fog that clung close to the ground. Trees stood in jagged silhouettes around the perimeter, bare branches scratching at the night. And above it all, the moon. Not full like a perfect coin, but close enough, bright enough, cold enough. Harry's blood reacted before his mind could. A pressure began behind his ribs, like something waking up and stretching. Cedric whispered, "Where are we?" Harry forced a breath in. Harry, graveyard, night. He tried to anchor, but the word graveyard made the rope fray in his fingers. I don't know, Harry said, and his voice sounded rougher than it had a minute ago. Cedric's wand light swept over the nearest stone. Harry's eyes flicked to the name carved into it, and his stomach dropped. A shape loomed beyond the headstones, an old manor house on a hill, black against the stars. Harry knew that shape from whispers and half-truths and nightmares he hadn't wanted to name. The Riddle House. This is, Cedric began. Harry swallowed hard. Little Hangleton. Cedric stared at him. How do you? Harry didn't answer, because his senses were already screaming something else. They were not alone. A faint sound came from behind a tall headstone. A scrape, a shuffle, the wet, uneven breathing of someone trying not to be heard. Harry turned, and he smelled it, sweat and dirt and fear, but also something sharp and familiar, the oily residue of dark magic like smoke caught in fabric. Someone stepped into the wand light. A man, small and hunched, with thin hair clinging to his skull and eyes that darted like a rat's. One hand held a wand. The other held something bundled in cloth, something that twitched. Harry's scar prickled. Cedric stiffened. Who are you? The man's voice shook, high and eager. Stand up, both of you. Harry didn't stand. His body wanted to crouch lower, to make himself smaller, to become spring-loaded muscle. The wolf inside him bristled. Cedric's voice was firm. We're not. Stand, the man hissed. and his wand snapped up. A spell shot out. Cedric jerked as if yanked by invisible strings, stunned in his stiffness, not falling, but locked. Harry's heart slammed. He raised his wand. Too late. The man's wand swung again. Incarcerous. Ropes whipped out and wrapped around Harry's chest and arms, pinning his elbows to his sides. Harry stumbled, furious, fighting the bindings, but the ropes tightened like they were alive. The wolf surged. Harry's nails prickled, wanted to lengthen, wanted to tear. He forced air into his lungs. Harry, graveyard, night. The words didn't settle him. They just reminded him how wrong everything was. The man limped toward Cedric first, breathing fast, eyes gleaming with frantic purpose. Cedric's eyes met Harry's. There was fear there, yes, sharp and human, but also something else. Understanding. This was it. This was the trap. Harry tried to shout, but his throat felt locked. His body was vibrating with restrained violence. The man raised his wand again. Avada Kedavra! Green light flashed. Cedric's body jerked once, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. And then he hit the ground. Hard. Still. The sound was small. Just a thud on wet grass. But it detonated inside Harry's head like a scream. No. Harry's voice tore out of him, raw, animal wrong. The wolf inside him erupted. Pure rage, pure pack loss, pure kill. Harry's claws punched out, shredding the rope fibers just enough to loosen them. The man spun toward him, eyes wide. Stay still, he shrieked. Harry surged forward anyway, half breaking the bindings, breath coming in sharp snarls. Then pain exploded in Harry's leg, like someone had slammed a steel bar into his shin. Harry collapsed with a choking sound. The rope snapped tight again. The man's wand had moved. Some curse, some strike. Harry didn't even know. All he knew was that his leg was burning and his body wanted to transform just to stop feeling helpless. The man limped closer, shaking. It's all right, he whispered to the bundled thing in his arms. It's all right, Master. It's nearly done. Master. Harry's stomach turned to ice. The cloth bundle shifted again, and Harry saw it, a pale, warped shape inside, barely human, like something unfinished. Red eyes gleamed from the folds. Harry's breath hitched. Peter Pettigrew, Harry whispered, the name dragging itself out of his memory like a curse. The man flinched at being named, then grinned, sick and proud. Yes, he hissed. Yes, that's right. You remember me. Harry's hands strained against the ropes. His nails scraped stone. You? Quiet, Pettigrew snapped. You'll spoil it. He dragged Harry, literally dragged him, across the graveyard. Harry's injured leg throbbed with every jolt. The moon stared down, bright and cold, and Harry felt his blood rising in response like tide water. The wolf was right there now, pressed against the inside of his skin, whispering with instinct instead of words. Break him. Bite. Rip. Harry bit down on his own tongue hard enough to taste blood, just to give his mind something sharp and human to hold on to. Harry. Graveyard. Night. It barely held. Pettigrew shoved him against a large stone cauldron hidden among the graves. It was already set, already prepared, steam curling from it like breath in cold air. Pettigrew yanked the ropes tighter, forcing Harry's arms out, pinning him to the stone rim like an offering. Harry's scar prickled again, stronger now, almost burning. And then, from the shadows behind the cauldron, a voice spoke, high, cold, pleased. So we arrive. Something moved. Something tall and thin, wrapped in black, emerged just enough for wand light to catch pale skin and eyes like coals. Not a man. Not fully. But a shape that carried a weight of presence like gravity. Harry's lungs seized. His scar flared. And the wolf inside him went very, very still, not with submission, but with recognition of something dominant and wrong. Lord Voldemort. Harry's breath came out as a ragged growl he didn't mean to make. Voldemort's eyes gleamed. How interesting, he murmured. You smell different. Harry's blood turned hot. His jaw tightened painfully. Voldemort tilted his head, as if listening to a private joke. Not only my enemy, he said softly, but something half-made. Half-tamed. Harry fought the ropes until his shoulders shook. Let him go, Harry rasped, voice raw. Let Cedric go. Voldemort's smile was thin. Spare me your grief. Pettigrew babbled, frantic. Master, the ritual. Yes, Voldemort said, almost bored. Proceed. Pettigrew moved like a man running on terror. He reached to a nearby grave and scraped something from it. Bone dust. Harry could smell it. Old death. Cold earth. The bone of the father, Pettigrew whispered, voice shaking, and tipped it into the cauldron. The potion hissed. The steam thickened. Pettigrew turned toward himself then, trembling, pulling out a knife. Harry's eyes fixed on it. It wasn't bright silver, no, but the blade had a pale sheen that made Harry's skin crawl anyway. It might have been steel. It might have been something else. His blood didn't care. The wolf inside him recoiled and surged at the same time, furious at the threat, furious at the helplessness. Pettigrew sliced his own arm with a sharp gasp. Harry didn't look away. He forced himself to stay present, because if he fled into panic, the wolf would take over. And Voldemort would like that. Pettigrew tipped the blood into the cauldron. The potion churned. The steam turned darker. Then Pettigrew moved toward Harry. Harry struggled harder, the ropes biting into his arms. Pain flared in his injured leg, and the moon overhead felt like it leaned closer. Pettigrew's voice was shaking with excitement. The blood of the enemy. Harry's scar screamed. Pettigrew cut Harry's arm. It wasn't deep, but it was enough. Warm blood slid down Harry's skin. The scent hit the air, and the wolf inside him went insane. Heat surged through Harry's body. His bones felt tight, too tight, like they wanted to shift out of their own sockets. His nails extended fully into claws, black and sharp. His teeth ached, canines pressing, jaw reshaping slightly. Harry's breathing turned into something harsh and animal. Voldemort watched, fascinated. Oh, Voldemort whispered, almost delighted. There you are. Harry fought it. Harry, graveyard, night. The anchor slipped. His mind flashed with Ron's face, Hermione's handwriting, Lupin's steady eyes. He forced himself to cling to them. Not the crowd, not the ministry, not the fear. People. Harry's claws dug into stone. Pettigrew yanked back from him, startled by the sudden violence in Harry's posture. Master! Finish, Voldemort commanded. Pettigrew tipped Harry's blood into the cauldron. The potion erupted. Steam exploded upward like a living thing, swallowing the moonlight for a heartbeat. Then, something rose from the cauldron, a body forming out of smoke and magic and stolen blood. Harry couldn't breathe. His scar burned like fire. The wolf inside him tried to lunge forward, not out of bravery, but out of pure instinct, destroy the threat. Voldemort stepped from the cauldron, tall now, pale, red-eyed, smooth-skinned like marble carved into cruelty. He drew a wand from Pettigrew's shaking hand as if it belonged to him by right. Then he looked at Harry and smiled. Reborn, Voldemort said softly, and you still alive. Harry's claws flexed. His jaw hurt. His blood felt like boiling water under his skin, fighting the moon, fighting the pain, fighting the humiliation of being pinned like prey. Voldemort raised his wand, casual. Ropes off. The bindings snapped away. Harry fell forward, catching himself on one knee because his injured leg screamed when he put weight on it. He forced himself to stand anyway, shaking, wand still in his hand. Voldemort's eyes glittered. Bow, he said. Harry bared his teeth. A low growl vibrated in his chest. Voldemort's smile widened. Yes, he murmured. Perfect. He lifted his wand, and Harry's body jerked, like an invisible hook had caught his spine. Harry's knees hit the ground. Rage flooded him. His claws tore gouges in earth. He tried to stand again, but the pressure forced him down. Voldemort stepped closer, voice silky. I wonder, he murmured, if your little school has told you what you are. Harry spat blood onto the grass. I'm not yours. Voldemort laughed softly. Not yet. He looked up, wand raised. More Smordra. The dark mark blazed into the sky. Green light burned through the fog like poison. And one by one, shapes began to appear around the graveyard. Hooded figures stepping out of darkness, circling like vultures. Death Eaters. Harry's senses exploded with them. Fear, excitement, cruelty, loyalty twisted into obsession. He could smell it all in layers until it made him dizzy. And beneath that, something else. A faint metallic trace again, drifting from one of the cloaks. Silver dust? Or just Harry's paranoia? His wolf didn't care. It wanted to kill everyone. Voldemort turned to them, voice cold and pleased, calling out names, punishing and rewarding like a king among monsters. Harry barely listened. He watched the circle tighten. He watched wands lift. He watched people stare at him like he was entertainment. The humiliation hit him like a physical blow. His claws trembled. His jaw clenched. The wolf surged. Voldemort noticed instantly. Ah, Voldemort said softly, turning back to Harry. They taught you fear. They taught you shame. Harry's breath tore in and out. His vision sharpened dangerously. Voldemort's voice was almost gentle. I could remove it, he whispered. The weakness, the leash, the loneliness. Harry's scar burned. His mind flashed with the ministry's word, creature, with the stand's hush, with the evaluation circle. Voldemort was offering the same trap with different words. Harry forced himself to speak through clenched teeth. You can't give me anything. Voldemort's red eyes glittered. Then we take what we want. He stepped back. Lifting his wand like this was a performance. Stand, Voldemort said, voice louder now. Face me. The pressure on Harry's body eased enough for him to rise. Harry stood shaking, injured leg trembling, claws still out, breathing harsh. Death Eaters watched in silence. Voldemort tilted his head. You are not a child anymore, Harry Potter, he said softly. Not after tonight. Harry's grip tightened on his wand. He forced his claws to retract slightly, enough to hold the wand properly. His fingers shook. Voldemort's smile sharpened. Let us duel. Harry didn't want to, but he knew what refusing would mean. Voldemort's wand lifted. Harry lifted his. For a heartbeat, the world was just wand light and breath and moon. Then Voldemort struck. Crucio. Pain exploded through Harry like fire in his nerves. Harry screamed, human and animal at once, and the wolf surged, not to flee but to fight through pain. Harry's claws dug into the ground. He forced himself to breathe. He forced himself to stay present. Harry, graveyard, night. The words were barely a whisper now, but they existed. Voldemort lowered the curse, watching Harry tremble. Tell me, Voldemort said softly, how does it feel to have the beast inside you and still be punished for it? Harry panted, sweating in cold air. His scar was a live wire. His blood felt like it was trying to escape his veins. Voldemort's wand lifted again. Now, fight. Harry's voice came out shredded. Expelliarmus. Voldemort moved like he'd been waiting. Avada Kedavra. Green and red met in midair. For a split second, the graveyard lit like lightning. The spells collided, locked, sparks spraying outward. Harry's arm shook violently under the force. His injured leg buckled, but he held. The wolf inside him anchored into the ground, muscles coiling, refusing to yield like an animal refusing to be dragged. The connection between wands became a blazing line. Then, a sound like glass cracking, a surge of light, and the world shifted. Harry's wand vibrated as if it was alive. Golden light formed between them, swelling into a sphere. Voldemort's face twisted in shock. "What is this?" one of the Death Eaters hissed. Harry couldn't answer. He couldn't think. The sphere expanded, and from it came a voice, faint at first, then clearer. A man's voice, then a woman's. Then more, echoes, shadows, the past pulled into the present. Harry's breath hitched. Figures appeared around him like ghosts made of light, people stepping out of the wand's memory. Voldemort recoiled, rage flickering. One figure turned toward Harry, eyes kind, voice urgent. "Hold on," the figure whispered. "Hold on, Harry." Harry's throat tightened. He didn't let himself collapse into grief. He didn't let himself fall into emotion that would give the wolf the wheel. He held on to one thing only: escape. The voice's soft, urgent guided him. "Run when the light breaks," one whispered. "Take the cup," another said. "Now," his mother's voice seemed to say, and Harry felt it like a hand on his face. The golden sphere wavered. Voldemort snarled, fighting the connection, trying to force it open like a man forcing a door. Harry's arm screamed with strain. His claws tingled, trying to emerge again. His mind teetered. Then the light burst. For half a second, the Death Eaters flinched, shielding their eyes. Voldemort's grip faltered. That half-second was everything. Harry turned. He sprinted, limping, staggering, injured legs screaming, but the wolf inside him poured strength into his muscles like fire. Not grace, not elegance. Pure survival. He grabbed Cedric's body by the collar with one hand, because he wouldn't leave him there, not after all of it. And with the other hand, he lunged for the cup. His fingers slammed onto cold gold. Portkey magic yanked again. The graveyard vanished. The moon vanished. Voldemort's scream cut off mid-syllable. And then Harry was flying through darkness with Cedric's weight dragging at him and blood on his arm, and a beast in his ribs howling at the loss of the hunt. Impact. Grass. Noise. Roaring sound exploded back into existence. Harry hit the ground at the edge of the maze, skidding, breath tearing. Cedric's body landed beside him. Still, Harry's chest heaved. For one heartbeat, the crowd didn't understand what they were seeing. Then someone screamed. Harry's vision blurred. He tasted blood and smoke and fear. He smelled Cedric's stillness. Wrong, wrong, wrong. He tried to crawl toward him, to shake him, to deny it. Hands grabbed Harry. Strong hands. Dumbledore's voice, sharp with panic and control. "Harry!" Harry's head snapped up. The wolf surged at being grabbed, but the scent hit him, grounding. Lemon drops, old parchment, fire and sunlight. Dumbledore. Harry tried to speak. Only a broken sound came out. "He's back," Harry managed, voice shredded. "He's back. Voldemort, he's back." The words hit the air like poison. Around them, people surged, teachers, officials, screaming students. The ministry pushed forward. The smell of fear turned into chaos. Harry's claws prickled beneath his skin, wanting to come out because the crowd was too close, too loud, too threatening. He forced breath into his lungs. Harry, Hogwarts, night. He didn't know if it held. He only knew Cedric was still beside him. And the Triwizard Tournament, the thing everyone had treated like a story, had just become a war.